A bad feeling rose in my chest. In the original story, Harry and Draco had encountered creature while he was feeding. Draco wanted to step forward and investigate, but I stopped him. Wait and see. I observed that Yaya wasn't fully on guard, nor did it bare its fangs in warning. Perhaps the approaching figure was someone familiar? Sure enough, its tail began to wag vigorously, as if trying to lead Draco to meet an old companion. The strange footsteps grew louder. It sounded like... Could it be a centaur? Malfoy Manor had several occulty courses, each worth a small fortune. Equestrian lessons were one of our required courses. Our bedroom walls were lined with photos of Draco riding dressed in pristine white riding attire, looking every bit heroic and poised. Brother, centaurs don't like being treated as mere mounts, I whispered a warning. Aurora, I do have some common sense, Draco replied, his hand awkwardly frozen in midair, unconsciously mimicking the motion of holding reins. Yaya broke free from its leash and dashed ahead. Soon it returned, leading a tall centaur. His coat was a pale golden hue, remarkably similar to the Malfoy signature hair color. His face was strikingly handsome, complemented by a pair of gemstone blue eyes. His bare upper body revealed impressive musculature. A Malfoy offspring? He seemed gentle, his voice clear and pleasant. Yes, I'm Malfoy Draco Malfoy. This is my sister, Aurora. May I ask who you are? Centaurs were proud beings, and one had to choose words carefully when interacting with them. They hated being used by wizards just as much. That kind of mindset was a mix of abasement and arrogance. The root of it lay in their rejection of their own identity. In their hearts, the slightest hint of condescension from others would set them off quick to anger, desperate to assert their presence. I am Fyarns. He stepped closer, studying us carefully. His gaze was gentle, almost unusually warm toward humans. It's you, he said, stopping in front of me, the one who will break the game. I stared into his sapphire eyes, unable to speak. They were like black holes, vast enough to swallow everything. Aurora. Draco moved in front of me protectively. What are you doing to her? Fyarns shook his head. Your gift is both your armor and your weakness. Remember, let no one know. I nodded. Thank you. There's no need for such formality. Our bond runs deep. His eyes drifted as if lost in another memory, gazing past us into the distance. His brow furrowed. It's dangerous here. I'll take you back. But Professor Dumbledore asked us to send fledglings into the Forbidden Forest at night, Fyarns muttered. I don't understand. Albus is going too far. Perhaps he's simply running out of patience. He lifted his head. Stars glittered across the night sky. Beautiful, isn't it? It was as though he could hear my thoughts. In truth, it hides a killing intent. A chill raced down my spine. Humans always fuss over trivial details, but the stars reveal far more than you realize. He bent his forelegs, lowering himself so we could climb onto his back. Are you sure it's all right? I asked again. He didn't answer directly. Isn't this what you wished for? His eyes shifted to Draco. The boy's face went crimson in an instant. Thank you, Draco mumbled. 1,000 years from now, and you've grown shy like this. Fyarns sighed with a helpless smile. Riddles again. What was he really playing at? Chapter 102. Healing the Unicorn Foal. Draco sat stiffly on Fyarns' back, looking so awkward it was hard not to laugh. He had no idea where to put his hands. You can hold onto my waist, the centaur prompted. Okay. Which meant Draco would have to press his whole body against him. Fyarns, considerate as ever, tied his long hair back and swept it over his chest. Shall we set off? He saw Draco still hesitating and spoke up as a reminder. The boy kept his arm hovering just short of the centaur's waist, careful not to touch. Suddenly, Fyarns quickened his pace. Draco lost his balance and lurched forward, his whole upper body pressing against him. For two unfamiliar males, the scene was more than a little awkward. Without thinking, I wrapped my arm around Draco's slender waist. Earlier, worried I might catch a chill, he had already taken off his cloak and draped it over me. Fyarns broke into a gallop. The late autumn wind of the Forbidden Forest cut against our faces like knives. Huddling together with Draco for warmth felt almost natural. Aurora, don't be afraid, Draco whispered, feeling my grip tighten against his waist. Then Fyarns skidded to an abrupt halt. Draco's head smacked straight into the centaur's back. Ugh! The dull thud sounded painful. He rubbed his sore nose, unable to vent his frustration, looking both pitiful and comical. Forgive me, Fyarn said distractedly. The air reeked of thick blood. I craned my neck, peering past him, and almost cried out. Silvery blood streaked across the ground, pooling all the way to Fyarn's hooves. That was why he'd stopped so suddenly. A unicorn foal. The moment the words left him, both Draco's and my twin wands reacted. Their cores were unicorn hair. In an instant, they slipped from our hands, floating above the dying unicorn foal. Even Fyarn's, well-traveled and worldly, gave a low cry of wonder. That little one can be saved. Draco leapt down from Fyarn's back and lifted me down after him. Together we ran toward the place where our wands hovered. I could feel a torrent of magic draining out of me. Aurora, are you all right? Draco's voice was strained. He too was weakening. I bit my lip and shook my head, forcing myself to endure. From afar, the thunder of hooves drew nearer. Other centaurs burst onto the scene, their eyes blazing with fury as they assumed we were the culprits. Fyarn's voice rang out, sharp with authority. Hold, Ronan, these wizard children are aiding in the rescue. The herd faltered, doubtful but subdued into silence. The one called Ronan snorted, clearly displeased. Being chastised by Fyarn's, the lowest ranked of their kind, was humiliation none of them could stomach. Yet, he had the sense not to escalate further. Not long after, more pounding hooves reached us. As I struggled to control the flow of magic, I marveled at the invisible bonds tying creatures of the same race together. This time it was a herd of unicorns. They cried out in grief at the sight of the wounded foal, their agitation shaking the air itself. There's still hope, do not disturb the Malfoy children. Fyarn's called to them. They're of the Malfoy family. Ronan's entire demeanor shifted, his words laced with respect. Yes, they are descendants of Legolas, and I. But the wind of the forbidden forest howled too fiercely. The rest of his words were lost. Chapter 103. What's my animagus? Hugh, the twin wands had nearly drained every last drop of magic from me. I stumbled, exhausted, and Fyarn stepped forward just in time to steady me. You've done well, he said softly. The wound on the unicorn foal had finally stopped bleeding. Moments later, it even tried to rise to its feet. The herd stirred again, this time not in fear, but in encouragement and celebration. Aurora! Draco came rushing over, wrapping me tightly in his arms. I could feel he too was on the verge of magical collapse. The unicorn hair at the core of our twin wands came from the grandparent of this very foal. Now, with its descendant at the brink of death, we had no choice but to intervene. The bond between wizard and wand had been debated since the dawn of magic itself. A wand is a wizard's most intimate companion, chosen as much as it chooses. To abandon the foal would mean betraying that bond. Our twin wands might never remain loyal again. In a critical moment, they could even turn on us. In the old accounts, the elder wand once wielded by Grindelwald and Dumbledore pledged itself only to power. But to me, loyalty is the truest measure when choosing a wand. No matter how mighty it might be, if loyalty is absent, I would never claim it. The leader of the herd stepped forward, a magnificent creature, towering and strong among its kin. It nuzzled the foal, licking its silvery coat, coaxing it upright. The little one swayed unsteadily, but its life was no longer in danger. Then, a voice echoed in my mind. Thank you, children of the elves, young one of Malfoy. Aurora. Draco glanced back at me in alarm. So it wasn't only me, he had heard it too. As repayment, the unicorn's voice faltered before continuing. Accept this gift. It lowered its head, gesturing for us to place our hands upon its horn. Its crystalline eyes gleamed like glass beads, as though they could pierce straight through our souls. It is said that unicorns only approach those with pure hearts. Do Draco and I qualify? Its horn was neither gold nor wood. The material was identical to my wand. My wand was made from a unicorn's horn. A unicorn only lends its power willingly, only then does it truly work. It hurts, my forehead felt like it was about to split apart. Don't let go, the voice grew stern. If you release it, everything will be for nothing. A millennium of hopes will vanish into nothingness. What do these cryptic words even mean? Aurora. Before losing consciousness, I heard Draco screaming my name. What's happening to me? When I opened my eyes again, the surroundings had completely changed. My vision was unusually sharp, colors unusually vivid. Aurora, you're finally awake. Mr. Hazenin, father, mother, Draco shouted excitedly. My condition had even alarmed my parents all the way at Malfoy Manor. Aurora, don't move. Draco quickly stopped me as I tried to sit up. His eyes were shadowed, unkempt, utterly disheveled, messier than I'd ever seen him. I was deeply moved and forced myself to suppress the urge to tease him. Your situation is unusual, he said, struggling to find the right words. Lucius and Narcissa hurried in, worry etched on their faces. Aurora, don't be afraid. Narcissa swept me into her arms. Your animagus is exceptional. What have I become? Narcissa conjured a water mirror. My animagus form is a unicorn. Platinum fur, gray eyes, and a long horn sprouting from the center of my forehead. Father, the leader of the unicorns, is trying to breach the barrier. Isn't what it did to Aurora enough already? Ungrateful beast, Draco blurted. Draco, watch your words. Lucius cast a silencing charm. Your mother and I awakened our animagus forms in 4th year. Aurora has simply done so prematurely. Show proper respect to the unicorn leader. They possess mysterious powers, many of them riddles even the wizarding world cannot unravel. Unicorn blood, according to legend, could extend a person's life, perhaps even drag them back from the grip of death. That was why Voldemort ordered Quirrell to harm them. Draco, full of worry, reached out to hold my hand. No, more precisely my hoof. Aurora, don't be afraid. Do you want to ask something? Draco softened his voice. In this form, can I still communicate with you properly? I mean, right now I'm an animal. You can, Narcissa reassured me. Your father and I are both born animagi, and Draco's bond with you, well, it's rather unique. He can understand you without difficulty. She gently stroked my mane. It felt so good. I couldn't help flicking my ears back and forth. So cute. Draco couldn't resist either, and began rubbing my ears. You too. I flailed my forelegs helplessly, unable to stop them. All right, enough teasing, Draco murmured, pressing a kiss to my horn. You mustn't kiss a unicorn's horn. The sensation was strange. Why not? Draco looked genuinely curious. It just feels uncomfortable. I didn't know how to explain the odd rush that coursed through me. Lucius, ever perceptive, patted Draco's shoulder and whispered, kissing a unicorn's horn is a courtship gesture. Ah, sorry, Aurora, you look so small like this, smaller even than the foal we rescued. I shouldn't have done that. He seemed terribly guilty, but the flicker in his eyes made me suspect he had meant it. I just couldn't find proof. How maddening. Suddenly, a piercing whinny rang out from beyond the door. Last, I forgot about that unicorn. Draco smacked his forehead. But the more I thought about it, the more it seemed like he had done it on purpose. Father lowered the wards and stepped outside, speaking to the creature in low tones. I had no idea what instructions he was giving. Draco, meanwhile, stayed tense and watchful. My apologies, Father said at last. My intention was only to return magic to the two of you. Instead, it triggered Miss Malfoy's bloodline. How long will Aurora remain in her animagus form? Draco asked immediately. Draco, Lucius answered in his stead. That's something no one can predict. Animagus transformation was one of the highest forms of transfiguration. One mistake, and the witch or wizard might spend their entire life trapped in animal form. For most, the animagus form was a non-magical creature. Transforming into a magical beast, a phoenix, a dragon, a unicorn, invited unpredictable consequences. In all of history, no wizard had ever been recorded as taking unicorn form. And that was what worried my family most. Aurora, don't be afraid, I'll stay with you until you change back. His gray eyes brimmed with sincerity. How could I possibly doubt his heart? Chapter 105. The Elves' Sanctuary. The news of Aurora's transformation into a unicorn must be kept secret from the outside world. Lucius fixed Draco with a grave stare. Not a word of this to anyone, not even your godfather, not even your grandfather Abraxas. Can you promise me that? I understood the weight behind his warning. Lucius could never be ignorant of the tangled history between Abraxas and Voldemort. It was his own father who had dragged the Malfoy family toward the abyss. No matter how fiercely Lucius fought against it, he could not keep this sinking Titanic afloat. Abraxas had hidden away that notebook on Horcruxes. For the sake of Voldemort's return, he might quite literally go to any lengths. "Aurora, forgive me," Lucius said softly. "I cannot keep you safe at Malfoy Manor. Everything he did was to shield me. How could I fault him for that?" His long, elegant fingers pressed against his temple, his narrow eyes lowered in thought. That posture always meant he was wrestling with a problem too urgent to ignore. "But father, Hogwarts Castle belongs to Dumbledore. It's dangerous there too." For the first time, the unicorn spoke. "Miss Malfoy may recover within our domain. Thank you for granting her shelter." Lucius's eyes shone with unspoken gratitude. "But I have a request, one that may overstep." "Please, speak it, Lord Malfoy." "May we remain by Aurora's side?" Lucius's voice was even, but his gaze betrayed the faintest trace of unease. What secret did the unicorn's territory conceal, that it mattered so deeply to the Malfoy family? The unicorn fell silent, then suddenly opened his consciousness to Lucius. I could not tell what passed between them. But when it ended, Lucius's expression was radiant. Whatever was shared, it was exactly what he had hoped for. He lifted me easily into his arms. "Father, I must be heavy now, aren't I?" Even as a unicorn foal, I was far from the same as when I had been human. "It doesn't matter," he answered gently. "Aurora, you are the Malfoy family's good fortune." He whispered it against my ear. With a glance, he summoned Narcissa and Draco closer. For 1,000 years, the Forbidden Forest has held a legend, a sacred land of elves, guarded by unicorns for generations. And the Malfoy family, his voice dropped lower. "It is said we carry elven blood. But through marriages with human wizards, that blood has thinned. For the past century, no Malfoy has awakened as an elf. To attempt the awakening in the elves' sanctuary greatly increases the chance of success. Elves nearly eternal in lifespan, unaging in beauty, their very essence born from the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. I had always thought such tales were nothing but gilded myths written in *platinum glory* to glorify the Malfoys. But to learn they were true, it shook me. Even Fyarns, upon our first meeting, had called Draco and me descendants of Legolas. Legolas, the name was familiar, yet I could not recall where I had heard it before. "All of this," Narcissa whispered, caressing my cheek with her soft hand, "is thanks to you, Aurora. Mother, you're already so beautiful. If you awakened as an elf, you'd be beyond imagination. You little flatterer." She tapped me lightly on the head. Only Draco stayed apart, trailing behind in silence. "Brother, what's wrong?" "Father, if Aurora has become a unicorn, does that mean she can never awaken as an elf?" "It won't be like that." Narcissa's gaze was soft as water. "An animagus is simply another form of a wizard, while elves are an entirely different species." She was speaking directly to me. "So, my Aurora, don't be afraid. To embrace the form of the unicorn is to embrace a part of yourself." She took me gently from Father's arms. For someone so frail in appearance, I was surprised at how strong she truly was. "Mother, are you jealous when you see Father holding me?" I whispered teasingly into her ear. "I dare say you're right." Keen observation, 5 points to Slytherin, Miss Malfoy. Lucius had heard me. The result was Narcissa blushing furiously, her cheeks as red as apples, caught between the two of us. "Mother, I want to try walking." Just as she had said, I needed to accept the unicorn as part of my identity before I could freely shift between animagus and human form. The greatest obstacle was not the change from walking upright to moving on 4 legs, it was the barrier in my own mind. Then, all at once, a snow-white 9-tailed fox appeared where she had just stood. Its wine-red eyes slanted upward, carrying both innocence and seduction. 9 luxuriant tails danced behind her, and at her brow burned a blood-red totem. Everything about her radiated rarity and mystery. "Mother!" The fox too walked on 4 legs, showing me by example how to move. Lucius followed suit, shifting form. He became a snow leopard, pure white from head to paw, no blemish marring his fur. Massive in size, radiating dominance, his muscular frame pulsed with strength. Small mammals in the distance, drawn by the commotion, bolted away in terror. Such was the weight of his presence. But I knew it was more than intimidation. He simply could not abide any creature's gaze lingering on my mother. Draco slipped an arm beneath my waist, steadying me. I tested my limbs, awkwardly moving one after the other. It was hard, so very hard, to find balance in this new body, but with my family's patience, their gentle protection, my confidence grew. Then I felt something drip into my mane. Draco? I turned, only to see him quickly look away, scrubbing at his eyes with his sleeve. The wind. Something got in my eye, he muttered softly. Shall I blow it out for you? He always used the same excuse. Truthfully, he was terrified that I might never change back, that I'd be trapped like this forever. Mother is a nine-tailed fox, a magical beast as well. She can shift freely. I'll be fine too, I reassured him. I know, his eyes rimmed red. I just hate myself that I don't have enough strength, that when something happens, I can never resolve it on my own. I always end up needing father. So young and already carrying such a heavy burden. Lucius's brilliance filled Draco with pride yet also with shame. He was torn in two, mimicking his father's tone, his dress, yearning for approval, yet at the same time, desperate to be seen for who he was. Draco Malfoy. An individual in his own right. All I remember is that when I opened my eyes, you were there. And every Malfoy, generation after generation, is born an animagus. My blood was awakened, forcing me to transform early. Perhaps Merlin himself granted me this chance. Draco's tears gave way to a reluctant smile. You always know how to comfort yourself. With his steady hand, I managed to walk on my own slow, shaky steps. He kept his pace, deliberately measured, never straying from my side. Not far off, the nine-tailed fox lay across the snow leopard's back, watching us quietly. Brother, her voice drifted soft and low. Aurora and Draco, they remind me of us, in those days. Of course, but the futures of these two children are not ours to interfere with. We should simply observe, Lucius replied thoughtfully to his wife. You weren't like that back then, setting countless traps with father, just waiting for me to fall into them. The nine-tailed fox flicked her tails lightly, clearly venting her anger yet with a playful, coquettish expression. Only the willing take the bait, sissy, he said. Fox leapt down from his back, and the snow leopard, with practiced ease, began grooming her luxurious fur. The leopard's powerful pheromones lingered as it licked, signaling to other males nearby that this female was claimed. The Malfoy sense of possessiveness, truly something. Draco is the only Malfoy member who has yet to awaken his animagus form. For now, he cannot detect the sense of other animals or understand the messages they convey. In the original story, he was transformed into a white weasel by young Bartemius Crouch. Perhaps that was his animagus form. I even bought a plush white weasel toy once. It was irresistibly cute. The unicorn leader walked ahead of us. Along the way, many magical creatures living in the Forbidden Forest paid their respects. It was clear he held great prestige there. Because father radiated a keep away from strangers' aura, and mother's nine-tailed fox form, though rare, was intimidated by the snow leopard's dominance and dared not stare. I, however, drew the attention of nearly everyone. Look, a newborn unicorn. Eric is taking her to the elves' sanctuary. Could she be his betrothed? Don't be ridiculous, she's far too young. Unicorns live a long time. Eric can wait. The unicorn leader was named Eric, meaning monarch or ruler in English. Thankfully, Draco had not yet awakened. He could only communicate with me, not understand the other animals. Otherwise, he might have tried to fight Eric. We've arrived. Deep in the Forbidden Forest stood a towering ancient tree. Without the unicorn's guidance, no one could witness the truth. What we had rescued had regained its health. It dashed out from the barrier, circling us, and seemed to recognize me, nuzzling my neck affectionately. Hey! Draco interposed himself, keeping the foal at a distance. The young unicorn, intimidated by Draco's stern demeanor, scurried back to Eric's side. It could not understand why the one who saved its life now acted so differently. Sorry, he thought Miss Malfoy was one of us. Draco's vigilant stance was ridiculously endearing. I nudged his arm with my head. He responded by stroking my mane and tail, whispering in my ear, the spot that thing touched, we need to disinfect it properly. Aurora, your ears have turned pink. A thin layer of fur barely covered them. The skin's color was clear, with faint blue veins visible beneath. Are you shy? His lips curved slightly, pondering something I could not guess. It seems emotions are expressed more directly in animatus form, he muttered to himself. And indeed, Lucius was still helping Narcissa groom her fur. Aurora, the most important person in your heart, is it me? He stared into my eyes. I turned my head away, my ears flushed, but my tail swished involuntarily. Aurora, little liar, it's only at times like this that you're truly honest. Perhaps to avoid suspicion, Eric left on his own after settling us in. The unicorn foal, however, often came to play with us. Its mind developed slowly, and once Draco sensed it bore no hidden motives, he gradually dropped his guard. Our wands shared hair from that very unicorn, a bond of fate that made him especially fond of the creature. I don't know what strings Lucius pulled at the Board of Governors, but Hogwarts agreed to grant Draco and me a temporary leave of absence. Hedwig even brought a letter from Harry, asking after our well-being. He and Ron had encountered Aragog, the giant acromantula Hagrid once saved. Ron's fear of spiders was infamous. Harry had noticed a foul stench just before realizing Ron had wet himself in terror. The red-headed boy's legs gave way, dropping him to the ground with a thump. He tried to speak, but all that came out was the chattering of his teeth. Harry studied Aragog's eyes closely, noting the white film clouding them. The old spider was clearly blind. Fortunately, Aragog cherished his bond with Hagrid. He never harmed them and even swore off human flesh, holding his offspring to the same oath. Still, Harry's brow furrowed as he looked at the swarming acromantulas. His view of Hagrid's harmless, fluffy creatures shifted into something far more complicated. Bringing such a danger to Hogwarts, there was no way Dumbledore didn't know. Just as with his blatant favoritism toward Gryffindor, unless disaster truly struck, he would always raise the issue high only to set it down lightly. The so-called Board of Governors was little more than Dumbledore's echo chamber, Lucius being the lone exception. Real problems were never resolved. The Malfoy family's sponsorship of Snape's potion research was constantly skimmed and cut until little remained. And where did the missing funds go? Wasn't it obvious? Straight into the pockets of that ragtag troop known as the Order of the Phoenix. Aragog had his sons escort Harry and Ron safely back to Hagrid's hut. But with every passing day as Aragog aged, his authority and hold over the colony weakened. In prides and packs, there is but one ruler, a strong adult male. When age and illness take their toll, a younger one rises, leaving the old king to a pitiful end. Would Aragog, blind and frail, one day be overthrown? And if that time came, would the acromantulas still honor their vow? No one could say. The morning after that excursion into the Forbidden Forest, Dumbledore's phoenix, Fawkes, arrived with a summons. The headmaster was inviting Harry to his office for sweets. Beneath childish robes and a gentle, harmless demeanor hid a shrewd political strategist who plotted every move. "Professor Dumbledore, you wanted to see me?" After Harry gave the password, he caught sight of Dumbledore hurriedly rearranging the sweets on his desk, trying to make them look untouched. Was this mischievous display just another way of lulling others into underestimating him? After a round of cautious probing, Dumbledore finally came to the point. "Harry, have you heard about Miss Malfoy? Lucius has requested an extended leave for her and Draco." "Forgive me, Professor Dumbledore, I truly didn't know." Harry lifted his gaze to Dumbledore's brilliant blue eyes. Though time had etched deep lines around them, they still hinted at the striking handsomeness of his youth. Much of that face was now lost beneath the sweep of his great beard. Grindelwald often visited Malfoy Manor, always bringing novelties for the younger generation. More often than not, the once feared Dark Lord would laugh with startling warmth. One day, Harry had found a broken pocket watch in the man's inner pocket. Tucked inside was a yellowed photograph, two sharp-eyed young men standing side by side. Noticing his curiosity, Grindelwald tapped the shorter of the pair. "This is Albus Dumbledore, the headmaster of Hogwarts." His weathered features were calm as he added, "Perhaps in the future, you'll find yourself dealing with him often." "Mr. Grindelwald, was he your friend?" "I believed so." The man ruffled Harry's untidy hair. "But what he thought, that I can't say." There was a subtle shift in his expression, regret, sorrow, but the young Harry could not yet grasp its weight. And now the frail elder before him seemed impossible to reconcile with the radiant youth in the photo. Dumbledore, for his part, looked faintly regretful. "I am sorry. I had thought, since you lived together before school, that you would already be quite close." A faint sting pulsed in Harry's scar. The lightning-shaped mark, hailed by the world as his badge of honor, the wound that shielded him from Voldemort's killing curse. The Malfoys had tried every cure imaginable. Potions brewed by Snape himself, the strongest healing charms Lucius could summon. None could erase it. Aurora had even suggested using Muggle scar patches, which had earned her a sharp rebuke from Lucius. In the end, it was clear nothing worked. Harry couldn't shake the sense that this fresh twinge of pain was tied to meeting Dumbledore's gaze. Before Hogwarts, he, Aurora, and Draco had been privately educated. There he had learned that truly powerful wizards could channel magic without wands, without words, precisely, decisively. Like in interrogations, when legilimency was used to pierce into memories and pull out truths. Its counter-occlumency was a subtle, difficult art. Snape excelled in it. But Harry had been too young. Their tutors never taught them. So before Dumbledore, he was utterly unguarded and open-page. "Professor, the Malfoys treat me as though I were their own family," Harry said, his words carrying more than one meaning. For who in the wizarding world didn't know? It was Dumbledore who had consigned him to Aunt Petunia's house, where for 5 years he endured neglect and cruelty set in motion by this very white-bearded man. "Even families keep secrets," Dumbledore replied quietly. "As long as their care is true, that is what matters." Harry forced himself to meet those blue eyes again. This time, all he could see was that the bright youth in Grindelwald's photo was long gone, dead in memory. What remained was this aged man, locked in his ideals, willing to sacrifice those nearest him, convinced he carried the mantle of justice. Cautiously, Harry offered, "Professor, I've noticed the acromantulas in the forest breed very quickly. The meaning would not be lost on a man like Dumbledore. Aragog and his offspring live there. The forest has become their home, the ground of their survival." "But what of the student's safety? Did that not matter?" Harry opened his mouth to press further, but was interrupted by sharp tapping. Fawkes swept in, a letter bound to his leg. At a glance at the handwriting on the envelope, the old man's eyes hardened, sharp as steel. "Harry, my dear, I'm sorry our conversation will have to pause here for today." "All right, Professor. Thank you for your time." It made sense. After all, the headmaster of Hogwarts and chief wizard of Wizengamot was hardly going to heed the advice of a young wizard. Harry's meticulousness left Dumbledore with no opening, and the contents of the letters were certainly not something he could access. At the Slytherin table, the seats normally reserved for the platinum-haired siblings were empty. Zabini, Nott, Parkinson and Greengrass all cast covetous glances at those spots. The Malfoys seemed to have disappeared as a family. The head of the Malfoys hasn't appeared publicly either. They can only be contacted through letters. Not exactly Abraxas is still around. He even hosted our whole family last week, though he doesn't seem too worried about his children. Maybe the Malfoy patriarch took the whole family on vacation? "Harry, why didn't they bring you along?" Suddenly, the focus shifted to him. It was Zabini. His words were sharp, cutting, and even in front of the Malfoys, he showed no restraint. "You've got to leave someone behind to study properly," Harry said, raising the book in his hand. "I'll take notes." "True, and Aurora's a curious little scholar. She'll probably be pestering you all the times," Zabini teased. Harry didn't reply, but unconsciously curved his lips in a faint smile. For some reason, defense against the dark arts hadn't resumed for 2 weeks. The official explanation: Professor Quirrell's mother had fallen ill, and he needed to leave Hogwarts temporarily. Yet every night, when Harry cloaked himself in the invisibility cloak and lingered before the mirror of Air-Eyes, Quirrell's figure would still appear. He continued to disrobe in front of the mirror. Only now, in addition to his years of scars, strange markings had begun to appear across his body. At first faint, they gradually spread all over. He cried out in unbearable agony, kneeling and prostrating himself before the mirror, pleading for his master's forgiveness. He worshipped the empty air. "Master, it hurts so much. Please, please help me." He clawed at his own flesh until it bled, screams tearing through the air. Harry could bear it no longer and dashed to the dungeons. Outside Snape's office hung a painting of Medusa. This time, unusually, she offered no mockery. "Little Harry, what's wrong?" "Is Professor Snape in? I need him, it's urgent." "Master is brewing potions, you'd better have a good reason." Medusa's tone was sharp, but her heart softened just like her master. She let Harry in without mentioning any password. Through the rising steam of the cauldron, Snape looked toward the visitor, managing to swallow the curse that had almost slipped from his lips. Harry was not a reckless Gryffindor. He would not barge into Snape's office without cause. Harry's panicked expression, however, was unprecedented. His startling green eyes were filled with confusion and distress. Snape tapped a finger against the desk, and a steaming cup of hot cocoa appeared before Harry. Crossing his arms, Snape looked away. Harry quickly took the cup in his hands. In the chill of the dungeon, the heat of the cocoa was soothing. "Professor Snape, Professor Quirrell hasn't left Hogwarts. I saw him kneeling completely naked before the mirror of Erised, and it looked like he had been infected by some kind of virus." Harry took a deep breath, recounting exactly what he had seen. Snape's brow furrowed. "Be specific." Snape's demand was as curt as ever. Harry tried to recall as he spoke. It looked like bluish, green markings, spread out almost like veins under the skin. "You've been sneaking out again with that invisibility cloak, haven't you?" Snape seemed utterly unconcerned about Quirrell's condition. His obsidian eyes locked on Harry with a piercing intensity. "Do not grow addicted to the mirror of Erised," Snape interrupted, voice flat, expression stiff, as though stating the simplest fact in the world. "But what you see there, those are dreams you will never achieve in your lifetime." The words cut straight through, tearing away the fragile mask Harry had worn. His mouth opened, ready to protest, but he shut it again almost immediately. Because he knew Snape was right. Whether it was the warm, happy image of the entire Potter family, or the vision of a bride waiting in his future, those were unreachable illusions. Like poison disguised as nectar, he found himself drawn back to the mirror night after night. And each morning, waking only to emptiness, the ache grew heavier. "I understand. I am sorry, Professor Snape." Harry admitted fault quickly, leaving Snape feeling as though he'd punched into soft cotton. Even Snape himself wasn't sure why he wanted so badly to provoke this calm, steady boy. Perhaps he longed to see him lose control. Perhaps it was that face so infuriatingly like James Potter's. They were nothing alike, and yet he was still Lily's son. And for that, Snape's anger flared, misdirected, again and again. He forced his emotions back into order, shifting to the matter at hand. Quirrell may have taken some kind of forbidden potion. Or Snape paused, frowning. "He may be under a curse." "That's right," Professor Quirrell kept mumbling, begging his master for forgiveness. "Master?" Snape seized on the word instantly. He shot to his feet, barked, "Stay here," and swept out of the office. But then abruptly, he returned, snatched up a small brown vial from his shelf, and vanished again. Harry knew exactly where he was headed, straight to Dumbledore. No detail escaped Snape when Harry's safety was in question. He left nothing to chance. He was nothing like that old bumblebee who could stand by, indifferent, even when Harry had nearly ended up as dinner for Aragog and his brood. The hot cocoa in Harry's hands warmed more than his fingers. It thawed something frozen deep inside his chest. The potions office was stark and orderly, a perfect mirror of its master. Ancient tomes on potion making were stacked with meticulous care. Ingredients of every quality sat preserved in sealed jars, each neatly labeled in Snape's precise hand, weights, dates, sources all noted. Potions, here, felt less like magic and more like a science. On the other side of the room lay a stack of marked student essays. Snape had just been working on his. The page was covered in neat, tiny annotations, suggestions, corrections, pointed remarks. Harry glanced through other students' work. None bore nearly this much attention. Unlike Draco and Aurora, who often slipped in and out of the Slytherin head's office, Harry always felt Snape kept him at arm's length. It was a strange sensation of someone watching over him closely, yet determined never to let it show. One drawer handle on Snape's desk was noticeably more worn than the rest. Its owner must have opened and closed it countless times. This was Snape's private business. Harry knew he shouldn't pry. And yet, against his better judgment, his hand reached for it, almost as if he were no longer in control of himself. Suddenly, Harry caught the sound of approaching footsteps. Already on edge, he was alert to every detail, and at the slightest hint of trouble, he hurried back to his seat. Snape pushed open the door, only to find Harry sitting obediently, sipping hot cocoa in small, careful mouthfuls. Hot cocoa, Lily's favorite drink as a girl. He had a cup every day. Harry had never seen his mother, yet in the library at Hogwarts, she too would sip it just so, lips curved in quiet satisfaction. These tiny habits, these unspoken preferences somehow, they had passed down to her son. Harry Snape closed his eyes, restraining the frustration in his voice. From this day forward, keep your distance from Quirrell. What do you mean? Quirrell is staying on as a teacher? Harry could hardly believe it. This had to be Dumbledore's doing. Albus has promised to conduct a quiet investigations. Snape rubbed at his brow. Cursed, perhaps infected by some unknown sickness, stammering, inept at teaching, riddled with bizarre quirks, and yet Dumbledore had no intention of removing Quirrell? Harry almost laughed in disbelief. What was Dumbledore playing at? Oh, there's also a letter for you. Puzzled, Harry took it. Snape explained, Hedwig isn't safe. If Harry used his own owl, the letter might easily fall under Dumbledore's surveillance. This time, the reply had been sent by the Malfoy family's golden eagle. No wonder Hedwig had returned empty, taloned, ruffled, and cross. Harry thanked Snape. Parchment was covered in cryptic markings, codes within codes. Seeing Harry's confusion, Snape tapped the first year potions textbook. The answer lies here. Understanding struck Harry. Back in his room, he worked through the strange symbols until they unraveled into smooth, flowing sentences. Aurora and the Malfoys were safe. Relief washed over him at last. Since the Forbidden Forest, he hadn't seen them. Something must have happened serious enough to involve even Lucius and Narcissa. Coupled with the sudden appearance of suspicious markings on Professor Quirrell, the two had to be connected. He looked calm on the outside, but inside he was restless, knotted with unease. The rumors swirling through the castle made it impossible for an 11-year-old to remain unmoved. Still, he had received their reply. That was something. The handwriting told its own tale. It was Draco's, not Aurora's, which meant it was Aurora who had been hurt. A terrible premonition gripped Harry, growing stronger by the hour. They had grown up together. Aurora had always been healthy, almost never ill. Muggles had a saying, small sicknesses keep great ones at bay. Could it be that because her immune defenses were almost never called upon, when a real illness struck, it hit with crushing force? At Hogwarts, Snape was the only adult Harry truly trusted. All he could do was wait, nothing more. Even Crabbe and Goyle, usually glued to Draco's side, were unusually downcast. Plainly, they too had received letters from home, probing for scraps of news about the family they depended on. They knew well the saying, when the tree falls, the monkeys scatter. Other pure-blood families were already stirring, watching, calculating. The possibilities were endless. And they threatened to reshape, not only Slytherin House, but the entire wizarding world of Britain. After days of effort and countless failures, I still couldn't grasp the secret of becoming an animagus. The other three, unwilling to leave me behind, settled with me in the elves' sacred land. And then something miraculous happened. Sissy, do you feel it? Lucius murmured. Yes, there's a strange energy, something that transcends the flow of magic itself. Narcissa closed her eyes, attuning herself to the subtle changes within. To have reached this place alone is a great step forward, Lucius said joyfully, patting the trunk of the colossal tree. At his touch, as though some hidden mechanism had been triggered, a man-sized doorway materialized in thin air. Its interior was pitch black, like the threshold of another dimension, full of unknowns. Father, I cried, overwhelmed by what I was witnessing. According to the Platinum Glory, this towering tree was the mother tree of the elves, the one that gave birth to the primordial kind. There are two kinds of elves. Those born of the mother tree are known as innate elves, while those awakened through their bloodline are called acquired elves. And now, we had truly stumbled upon this chance. Lucius stepped cautiously forward, one hand tightly clasping Narcissa's fingers. Lord Malfoy, the gate will soon vanish. Seize this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, came Eric's voice from behind us. So he too had been watching. Aurora, Draco. Lucius beckoned us to follow. But before I could step through, an unseen barrier stopped me. Humans in their animagus form cannot cross the wards of the elves, Eric explained, and those who enter cannot leave until they have awakened as elves. Narcissa pounded frantically on the invisible wall, calling my name again and again. Covering her mouth, she wept uncontrollably. Lucius held her close, murmuring soft words of comfort. The entrance shrank with every heartbeat. Draco lingered at my side. I couldn't let him lose this chance. "Aurora, I'm staying with you," he declared with unwavering resolve. "You'll regret it, and I won't allow it." With the portal on the verge of closing, I kicked him hard, sending him tumbling inside. Only when the darkness sealed shut did my heart finally unclench. "Lady Malfoy," Eric's ocean blue eyes brimmed with concern. "Are you all right?" "Perfectly fine. Better than ever. The Malfoy family finally has the chance to awaken our bloodline." I didn't know why I had shouted so loudly, almost as if I were trying to convince myself. Eric's face softened with pity, though he spoke no words. Perhaps he knew that any comfort would sound hollow. The unicorn foal had told me that Eric had lived for over 1,000 years. He had watched countless races rise and fall, witnessed the glory and ruin of the elves. His eyes, though the color of the sea, carried no waves, only the weariness of ages. "I do regret that I cannot share this with them," I admitted, bearing my thoughts for the first time. "But to have given them this chance, that's enough for me. I only hope you'll feel the same years from now." "What do you mean, Eric?" "When long years pass, their faces will remain untouched by time, while yours will wither away." He stepped closer, his voice soft, persuasive. "Why not become a true unicorn? In a life that brushes against eternity, I can help you, Aurora." For the first time, he spoke my name like a prayer. "What would you do?" I asked. Seeing my hesitant expression, Eric shifted into human form. He was tall and imposing, with long, silver-white hair and piercing blue eyes that seemed to see straight through. A flowing robe in matching tones draped his frame, and a pair of immaculate white wings extended from his back, evoking the angels of Muggle myths. The unicorn foal spun around him wildly, winking and nudging me. "Eric, did you only manage to take human form because of Miss Malfoy?" Noticing my gaze fixed on his wings, Eric explained, "Adult unicorns grow a pair of wings. We can fly freely. As you can see, even as unicorns, we can assume human form, allowing us to survive in the human world." "But why are you helping me?" I asked. Malfoy and his parents, along with Draco, were all trapped within the Mother Tree's barrier. In the days ahead, I would live with Eric and his kin. What could his intentions be? There's no such thing as a free lunch. I didn't believe he would give so much without expecting anything in return. Pure-blood unicorns are on the brink of extinction. As their leader, it's my duty to pass on the purest bloodlines. Sensing my doubt, he continued, "For the first time in 1,000 years, a human wizard has manifested an animagus form of a unicorn. This indicates that you two have an intricate bond with unicorns." "Are you saying?" My mind was reeling from the sheer volume of information. "Each of us benefits, Aurora. Stay by my side and share an endless life." "Are you kidding? I'm still a child." I took 2 steps back, putting 10 meters between us. Here, in the uncharted depths of the Forbidden Forest, no one would hear me if I called for help. "I can wait for you to grow. I've waited 1,000 years, and can wait a little longer." "You brought my whole family here for this reason?" I involuntarily took another step back. Eric noticed my reluctance and instinctively maintained his distance. "You resemble her," he murmured. "Platinum fur, gray eyes, even the color of the horn." The unicorn foal nudged Eric's hand affectionately. "Your wandet's made from her horn." I recognized the familiar energy immediately. Was that unicorn your mate? I felt like some kind of executioner intruding on their bond. Eric shook his head. "Only if they willingly offer themselves. Otherwise, using any part of a unicorn brings a curse." He gently stroked the foal's forehead. "This little one was nearly drained by a human wizard." "Was it someone who reeks of rot?" I thought immediately of Quirrell. "Yes, cloaked, face unseen and foul-smelling. I thought all humans smelled that way, until I met your family. They're all fragrant." The foal bounded to my side, excitedly describing its impressions. I couldn't help but smile. Apart from Narcissa, who naturally exuded the scent of Chinese daffodils, the rest of the family always used perfume. "But I still prefer your scent," the foal said, nudging forward. Eric blocked it gently. "Apologies. Unicorns are easily tempted by pure-hearted virgins." Heavens, how utterly mortifying. Of the only 2 human women here, Narcissa was long married, with 2 children of her own, so of course it couldn't possibly be her. No wonder the entire herd of unicorns had been staring at me. "Don't worry, they won't hurt you," Eric, sensing my embarrassment, spoke in a soothing tone. You don't have to decide right away. You know where we live now. We have plenty of time. No, you don't. A familiar figure appeared high in the branches of an ancient tree. He leapt down in a single graceful bound. It was Draco. Only now, he was an elf. His features were dreamlike, too perfect, as though shaped by the Creator's own hand. A beauty beyond human imagining. His once short platinum hair spilled all the way to his waist. The pointed ears, unmistakably elven, set him apart from humankind at a glance. And on his back an elegant pair of brown wings. Standing before him, I felt a sharp pang of shame, of inadequacy. Aurora, it's me. He crouched down and wrapped his arms around my neck. You've broken the succession, Eric frowned. Only because you wouldn't stop pressuring her, Draco snapped, pulling me protectively behind him. I never thought the so-called pure and gentle unicorns would stoop to such opportunism. Eric, will breaking the succession cause harm? I asked quickly. He shook his head. I'm not an elf. I don't know for certain. Draco ignored him, turning to me instead. Aurora, I'll help you change back. I'm already an elf now. Elves command all living things. That includes human animagi. His hand came to rest atop my head. Aurora, close your eyes. Of course I trusted him with every fiber of my being. At once, a searing heat spread across my chest. My consciousness wavered, as though tugged away from my body. Why isn't it working? Draco muttered anxiously, his eyes darting over me in desperation. Had it failed? I lowered my head. 4 hooves still met my gaze. A quiet sigh echoed in my heart. As I said, you rushed it. You broke the elven succession too soon. And Aurora's animagus form is a magical creature. That makes the transformation far more difficult. Eric shook his head in disappointment. Aurora, you must rely on your own strength. Another failure might trap you in unicorn form forever. Though, personally, I wouldn't mind that outcome. A smirk curled at his lips. You, Draco clenched his fists. That's enough, Draco. Don't speak so rudely to our benefactor. Lucius and Narcissa. They had succeeded as well. I stared at Mother, transfixed, until Father's discreet cough pulled me back to myself. Sissy, the confundus charm on your earrings has worn off, he muttered irritably, clearly displeased at her unveiled beauty. Even as a witch, Narcissa had been stunning, but as an elf, she seemed like a being out of another dimension, utterly unmatched with the world around her. I could see nothing else, nothing but her. Her wine, red eyes shimmered with a beauty that stole breath, her sea-weed, like curls gleamed with the luster of fine silk. Mother, the red suits you so much better. Before I realized it, I had already flung myself into her embrace. She looked down at me, tears spilling freely from her eyes, soaking the ground below. Her grief-stricken beauty was enough to shake heaven and earth itself. Don't cry, Mother. My poor Aurora. Why is it that the opportunity you brought us must leave you behind? Merlin, it's too cruel. Narcissa. Lucius stepped forward and drew her into his arms. Who knew when the mother tree would open again? Years, perhaps decades. Let's just say it wasn't meant to be. I, on the other hand, felt strangely at peace. To have grown up alongside the proud platinum prince of my heart, to enter Hogwarts, and to be placed in my beloved Slytherin that was already a gift from Merlin. Better to cherish what I already had. Lucius studied the subtle changes in my expression. Aurora, you've grown up. I was raised in a warm, prosperous home, blessed with loving parents and brothers. What more could I ask for? Many people struggle all their lives and still never reach the starting point I was given. Suddenly, a beam of light enveloped me, filling me with gentle warmth. Comfort spread through every part of me, wrapping me like a soft embrace. Strong arms and a cloak pulled me close. I had returned to my true form. Good thing I reacted quickly. You nearly gave everyone a show, Draco muttered at my ear as he wrapped me even more securely. He lifted me in his arms, and I nearly yelped. Since when did you get so strong? I train every day. Even after his time as a spirit, his skin was still as pale as ever. A flush on his cheeks stood out instantly, giving away every flicker of emotion. He looked delicate, almost fragile, yet his strength was real. The problem was, he was too strikingly beautiful enough to make others mistake him for some dainty maiden. Draco carried me into the tent, pulling the curtains shut tight. Draco, must you act as if we're hiding from thieves? I headed for the washroom to take a proper bath. The past few days as a unicorn, I'd only been able to soak in the lake outdoors. Thankfully, I didn't carry any strange odor. It was hard to imagine Sirius Black, in the form of a black dog, fleeing Azkaban and unable to bathe for months. What torment that must have been. Of course I need to guard against him. He nearly had his way. Draco's voice trailed lower and lower, until the sound of running water drowned his words. By the time I stepped back out, fresh clothes clinging to me, he had already tucked away his wings. But his face, compared to his human self, was strikingly altered. Returning to our old lives won't be so simple. Aurora, you needn't worry. Lucius slipped the family head's ring from his hand. Only then did I realize I had been too distracted by Narcissa's dazzling beauty to notice that father was still in human form. The moment the ring left his finger, his elven features emerged. The Malfoy head's ring carries the power to conceal our true appearance. So that's it, I murmured in sudden understanding. Clever, isn't it? Lucius went on, Sissy can use alchemy to craft 2 more of them. Yes, Narcissa's eyes never left her husband, her cheeks tinged pink, as if lost in private thoughts. Sissy, Lucius chuckled, ruffling her long hair, come back to us. Ah, she swatted lightly at him. You've changed so much it feels strange to me. Then why don't we get used to it right now? He hoisted his wife over his shoulder. Draco, Aurora, take a walk outside. Your mother and I have matters to discuss. Matters that must be discussed in bed? Draco and I had been invited out of the tent, left standing there staring awkwardly at one another. The moment Narcissa's soft moans drifted from inside, I grabbed Draco's hand and pulled him far away from that dangerous place. Honestly, Lucius, really? Anywhere, anytime? Still, Narcissa, awakened to her elven bloodline, was breathtakingly beautiful enough to leave anyone speechless. If I were a man, I doubted I'd have the patience to wait either. We'll be like that one day too, won't we? Draco clutched my hand, his eyes fixed on the weeds underfoot as though they were some rare potion ingredient. His ears burned crimson, his palms damp with sweat. The fine down on his face caught the sunlight, turning to gold. But, Draco, compared to elves, human life is a mere flicker. In 100 years, I won't be able to stay with you anymore. Aurora. And elves keep their beauty frozen at its peak. Decades from now, I'll be bent and wrinkled while you still look like a youth. People will think you're my grandson. Have you thought about that, Draco? The truth hit us like a hammer blow, harsh, but undeniable. Yet running away wouldn't solve anything. Whatever the future held, we had to face it together. Listen to me, Aurora. None of that matters. Draco pulled me tightly against him. I've awakened my elven blood. The lineage may be broken, but fragments of its memory remain. There are ways a human with elf blood can still be transformed into a true elf. Aurora, we have endless years ahead of us to discover the way together. I can take aging potions, and Mother is already working on enchantments to mask elven features. I won't let you grow old alone. The rumble of his chest, the rough edge of his breath, were so close against my ear. His heartfelt confession softened my fears about the uncertain future. When had I become so restless, so greedy for more? Perhaps the Malfoys had spoiled me. Inside the mother tree, we could see everything outside. Draco's fingers gently kneaded the back of my neck. When I saw him set his sights on you, I couldn't endure it. I broke the rite. Draco, what did you all go through in there? I asked curiously. A great deal. The heart of elven awakening is the forging of a spiritual cycle. He lifted my hand, pressing my palm to his. Feel it, Aurora. He closed his eyes first. Beneath the rhythm of his magic, I sensed another force flowing. Aurora, you have a spiritual cycle too, Draco exclaimed, eyes wide with joy. But I'm not. Could he be mistaken? Our powers share the same source. Try again. He was right. The flow was there. But how could I, not an elf, possess such a thing? Maybe it's tied to your animagus. Don't forget, the unicorns have always been guardians of the elves. We were destined to belong together. He cradled my hand, brushing a kiss across the back. Light as a dragonfly's touch, yet it sent ripples through my heart. You were always meant to be my little unicorn. He had me cornered. Vines grew thick around the unicorn's dwelling. My foot caught, nearly sending me tumbling when suddenly something tightened around my waist. But Draco was still right beside me. So, what was it that had ensnared me? Don't be afraid, Aurora, this is one of my abilities controlling plants. The vines coiled gently around my waist, their strength as steady as Draco's arms. The thorns had retracted, and the pressure was perfectly controlled. Draco, thinking better of it, quickly withdrew the vines. But the tendrils seemed reluctant to leave, their soft shoots brushing lightly against my pinky. So cute. For the first time I realized vines could be this adorably soft and playful. I reached out and touched them, and they shied away like mimosa leaves. Aren't you scared? Don't you think I'm some kind of monster? I asked. Of course not. They're part of you. I love everything about you, Draco said. Hearing the word love, his face turned even redder. Mem. The boy's eyes shimmered, like tiny stars scattered across a gray sky. His gaze held a universe of emotions. We had both changed so much physically, mentally. Even Draco, usually spoiled and confident, now fidgeted like a lovesick teenager, constantly seeking reassurance of my feelings. The sensation of being cherished, held carefully in someone's hands, it was wonderful. We wandered outside for what felt like a whole day and night. Eventually, exhausted, we used a transfiguration charm to conjure a tent. Does Dad ever stop? I wonder if Mom can even handle it, I whispered to Draco, half complaining. Dad told me Malfoy men tend to be unreasonably demanding in this regard. Draco's face flushed so red, it looked painful. Good heavens, what kind of words are these? Is this really how Lucius taught his son? And they're all unusually gifted, so it takes quite some effort for a woman to keep up. Western education really does seem advanced. Don't worry, I'll control myself in the future. I won't be like Dad, Draco said softly, assuming I had been intimidated, and gently tried to reassure me. I felt like my CPU was about to overheat, my head spinning as I nodded vaguely, completely missing the fleeting glint of mischief in the boy's eyes. The next morning, Eric returned to his unicorn form, and escorted us all the way to the edge of the forbidden forest. Aurora, you will come back. He watched me in silence, gaze unwavering, full of certainty. His voice was quiet, but loud enough for Draco and me to hear. You. Before Draco could even react, Eric's figure vanished into the depths of the forest. Truly worthy of being king of the unicorns, his speed rivaled lightning itself. Lucius, still looking thoroughly satisfied, brought us back to Hogwarts Castle. How's Mother? Not seeing Narcissa, I asked with some concern. Sissy is well. The man seemed lost in savoring yesterday's bliss as he slipped a ring onto Draco's finger. By magic the band shrank to fit perfectly. Father, this is a ring that conceals an elf's features. Sissy made it. Inside the band, 2 engraved letters gleamed, DM. A ring made solely for Draco. Father, Mother already takes care of you and now even makes alchemic jewelry. She's working so hard, and thanks to you she can't even get out of bed. Aurora, must you say everything aloud? Even Lucius, usually thick-skinned as a castle wall, betrayed a flicker of embarrassment. What had really happened yesterday? Should I step out and let you all finish your tender farewells? It was Snape. Merlin's beard, instant social death. Chapter 1, 119, The Unbreakable Vow. Aurora and Draco I leave in your care, Severus. Lucius's retreating back looked suspiciously like he was fleeing. Ha. As soon as he vanished completely, I couldn't hold it in anymore and burst out laughing. Aurora, don't bully Father. Draco sighed helplessly, ruffling my hair. It seems Lucius is far too lenient with you both. Before Abraxas, he was like a mouse before a cat's. Snape shook his head, as though genuinely pitying his old friend for spoiling his children. I ducked my head guiltily and followed behind Snape. His black robes nearly whipped against my face. Hurry up, don't be late for the first class. The usually rowdy Hogwarts Great Hall suddenly fell eerily silent, and I was swept into a warm embrace. Aurora, it was Harry. His grip was so fierce, his arms clamped around me like iron tongs, nearly crushing my waist. Harry, a little gentler, I whispered. Sorry, I was too excited. His green eyes brimmed with apology. Draco had to clear his throat pointedly, just to remind Harry he was still there. It's such a relief to see you both safe. Harry bumped his arm lightly against ours, a gesture simple and brisk. So that's the difference between how boys and girls greet each other. Harry's gaze swept over us. You're glowing. Looks like something good has happened. Something like that. Draco and I exchanged a knowing smile. Seeing that we didn't elaborate, Harry wisely didn't press further. Aurora, here are the notes from this past while. The moment he pulled them out, I hurried to take them, cradling them in my hands as if they were treasure. Thank you, Harry. You're so thoughtful. Did you come across anything unusual in the Forbidden Forest? This time, it had been Draco and I who stumbled upon the wounded unicorn. Most likely, Harry and Ron had made it through their part unscathed. It's a long story. Harry's helpless expression said everything. As always, wherever Harry went, Dumbledore seemed to ensure little accidents followed. Our first lesson back was defense against the dark arts. Harry, oddly enough, sat in the very front row. Ever since we discovered Quirrell's strange condition, the rest of us kept as far from him as possible. The stench of rot clinging to him had only grown worse. On top of that, he had begun to shroud himself completely, swathed in layers of cloth like a woman from some distant desert land. A black turban hid nearly every part of him. Could it be tied to the curse of unicorn blood? That night, Harry came to our dormitory to share what he had learned. What shocked Draco and me most was Dumbledore's complete inaction. Allowing a dangerous grown wizard to remain inside Hogwarts for so long, how could he justify it? What about you two? Harry asked. Draco and I exchanged a quick glance. He gave the faintest shake of his head. Neither my animagus form nor Draco's elven heritage could be revealed. Both were Malfoy secrets of the highest order. And yet, Harry lived alongside us day after day. Sensitive and sharp as he was, how long could we really keep it from him? In the original Thread of Destiny, Harry was Dumbledore's ultimate hidden weapon. Only I knew the scale of his true power when cornered. For 11 years, I had walked through a story that largely mirrored the one I remembered. So how could I not rely on the original tale as my compass? I drew a long, steady breath. Harry, would you be willing to make an unbreakable vow with us? Aurora. Draco's voice was sharp. He couldn't understand why I, usually so cautious, would expose a Malfoy family secret to a Potter. The twin wands in my arms trembled violently, as though protesting my recklessness. I quietly squeezed Draco's fingers, assuring him I knew what I was doing. Harry stared at me in astonishment. He had expected excuses, deflections, anything but this. Yet he agreed readily to the unbreakable vow. I kept the truth of the Malfoys' awakened elven blood hidden, revealing only my animagus form. A unicorn? Then, the blood Quirrell drank, was it yours? He clenched his fist, veins standing out along his arm. I shook my head. It was another full. Only then did he let out a long breath. Good, it wasn't you. Then all the more reason to be careful. Aurora, I'll never betray your trust. Rest assured your secret is my life. His emerald green eyes shone with startling intensity. He had always been shy, reserved, rarely did anything stir much emotion in him. Yes, I believe you. More than that, I trusted the power of an unbreakable vow. Trading a secret I could never tell for Harry Potter's absolute loyalty worth it, wasn't it? Draco snarled. Harry, if you breathe a word, I'll kill you. I won't need you to kill me, I'll do it myself first, the black-haired, green-eyed boy vowed. Heavens, you too! Can you stop with the killing? It's so ominous. All right, don't be mad. I was just saying, and he was just listening. Both boys spoke in unison. The three of us couldn't help but laugh together. The tense air vanished without a trace. Unicorn blood can extend a human's life, but only if the unicorn gives it willingly, Harry repeated. I nodded in confirmation. Then you must be careful. Don't let anyone trick you, he urged. Her tricked? It's a wonder if she's not the one doing the tricking. Draco ruffled my hair, as though punishing me for acting on my own just now. And yet, I had guarded his secret tightly, trading only my own in return. What a wretched boy. Did he think my sacrifice wasn't enough already? Aurora, what do you look like when you turn into a unicorn? Harry's eyes sparkled with anticipation. I'm not much different from a colt, really, except with a horn. Cute, Draco agreed. An animagus taking the form of a magical creature is extremely rare, which means you mustn't transform lightly. I knew he didn't want Harry to see my animagus form. In his words, this unicorn belonged only to him. Harry seemed to understand, though he still pressed for details of my appearance. A few days later, I found a slip of paper tucked in his notebook. On it was a lifelike sketch of a unicorn exactly as I had described myself. Flowing mane, bright, soulful eyes, every stroke drawn with the boy's careful hand. When I discovered it, I quietly slipped it back. I could only pretend not to have seen it. I didn't want to betray the care behind it. No beginning, no ending. Even if there were no Ginny Weasley, there might still be Cho Chang. The pull of the original story was that strong. And yet, when it came to Draco, I no longer believed in the power of the plot. What a double standard. I came here to rewrite fate only so I could give you a different ending. I once asked Harry privately why, when everyone else avoided Quirrell, he chose to approach him. When he stares at me, my head feels like it's splitting apart, and then knowing he would risk a curse just to harm unicorns, to drink their blood. Professor Dumbledore saw all this and still chose to ignore it. I can't help but suspect he was waiting, setting a trap. And me, I was the bait. Harry's eyes dimmed. So you turned his scheme into your own, using it to lure the serpent out? If I don't go to him, he'll come to me, Harry said calmly, as if he were simply commenting on the weather. He's insane. I'll make sure Mom gives you a few more protective charms. Draco fumed. Harry was our ace, and there was no way we could afford to lose him in first year. Thanks, Aurora. Did you see? No, never mind, Harry said with a self-deprecating smile. I pretended not to know anything and bent over my notebook, scribbling furiously to catch up on my lessons. Even though we had some pre-Hogwarts education, I still wanted to achieve excellent results on my own merits. Hermione, a Muggle, born, had never encountered the magical world before, yet still managed to top the year, so why couldn't I with all my advantages? Influenced by my determination, Draco and Harry also began spending more time studying than most of the pure-blood heirs around us. On Christmas Eve, Lucius brought the three of us back to Malfoy Manor. Aurora, but don't overdo it. Come, enjoy the Christmas feast prepared by Sissy herself. I closed my book reluctantly. Dad, that sentence should apply to you, not me. For the past few days, at home, Narcissa wouldn't get up until the afternoon, and yet she had the nerve to warn me about overdoing it. Sharp-tongued. Sissy would never say that. Lucius's expression softened, the calculating, cunning platinum aristocrat outside, completely devoted to his wife inside. I'll go see if Sissy needs help. Honestly, with the house elves around, he wasn't needed at all, but then again, the two of them were practically conjoined twins. Once the holidays began, Narcissa's attention would be divided between us and her husband. Lucius probably didn't want us home at all. And sure enough, the very next day, he left a note saying he and Narcissa had gone abroad for a vacation. Lucius finally gets a moment alone with Sissy now that you've grown up, Abraxas teased mercilessly. Grandpa, are you just going to let Dad be so lazy? I whined, hugging him. No one in the Malfoy family knew that my animagus form was a unicorn except him. For some reason I felt a twinge of guilt, but his flirtatious attitude toward young Tom from the Horcrux notebook had made us too cautious to risk revealing anything. Abraxas winked. Grandpa has a gift for you. He reached into his coat and revealed, this is Lucius's secret weapon for holding first place in the year for 7 straight years at Hogwarts. It was a pocket watch-shaped magical device, a time turner. Yes, as mentioned in a licensed Harry Potter spin-off, the time turner was Lucius's invention. It has many uses. Lucius often used it to torment Sissy. She stole it and entrusted it to me for safekeeping. In theory, one cannot cross paths with their past self. This prevents accidentally attacking oneself. But as its inventor, Lucius knew the device inside out and didn't have to obey that rule. 2 Luciuses existing at the same time. No wonder Mom could barely handle it. One was already. My hand trembled, and I nearly dropped the time turner. Careful! Draco reacted instantly, catching it before it fell. What's this? I asked. He studied the instructions on the back carefully. Aurora, you're not planning to use this to sneak back into class, are you? Of course not. I shoved the magical device away guiltily. In the original story, during her 3rd year at Hogwarts, Hermione really did use one to attend 2 classes happening at the same time. If Professor McGonagall could show her favoritism like that, then as the daughter of the time turner's inventor, it would be unreasonable for me not to use it. But handling a time turner required extreme caution. One tiny change could ripple through and alter everything. Come on, it's Christmas. Time to open presents under the tree. Harry's already waiting there. Malfoy Manor had been decorated with exquisite care, every detail radiating the taste and elegance of old money. Let's see what this year's big surprise is. Draco weighed the envelope in his hand. Feels so light. And look, it's addressed to both of us. Resting my chin on his shoulder, I breathed in the refreshing scent of leaves and grass. He carefully unfolded the parchment. It's the usage rights to the Forbidden Forest. In Britain, all land was technically owned by the Crown or the state under a tenure system, but in practice, everything came down to rights of use. Lucius, in the name of the Malfoy family, had purchased the usage rights to the Forbidden Forest and registered them under both Draco's and my name. Father really doesn't hold back. I kissed the enchanted parchment that had already taken effect. Aurora, my half, I'm giving to you, Draco said, though he didn't look happy. Clearly, his eyes flickered toward Harry, but he didn't finish. In his mind, his parents and he himself were the ones who'd benefited riding my coattails to enter the elves' sanctuary and awaken their bloodline, while I, unable to change back from my unicorn form, had missed my chance entirely. Fate's cruel twists weren't something anyone could control. Why bother transferring anything? We're family. It's just the left hand passing to the right. What's the point? You're right. What's mine is yours anyway. He smiled as he watched me cradle the parchment like a treasure, and whispered softly. Harry, what about you? What did you get? As the wizarding world's most famous influencer, he always received the most gifts. Every Christmas Eve, so many owls arrived that they routinely smashed several windows of Malfoy Manor. It's the Potter family's financial reports. The dazzling numbers showed more than double last year's income. And some Potter heirlooms the ministry had been temporarily holding on to. Harry's lips curled into a bitter smile. When it came to inventorying the Potter estate, certain ministry officials had helped themselves, just as Umbridge once clung to Slytherin's locket in the original story. For them to willingly cough up their stolen fat meat, Lucius must have pulled plenty of strings. This is the best gift I've ever received, Harry murmured. You haven't even opened ours yet. Don't jump to conclusions. With mountains of packages under the Christmas tree, finding ours wasn't easy. Harry blinked and pulled something from behind his back. I found it already. Dark green Malfoy's own ink and stationery set. Chapter 123, On the Verge. So you actually found it? Draco and I exchanged a smile. That took us a lot of effort, Draco said proudly, patting his chest as if to claim credit. Thanks. You haven't even opened it yet. What if it's not to your liking? I urged. Harry carefully peeled back the wrapping. I held my breath, watching for his reaction. This is. It was a blank piece of parchment. Tucked beside it was a note. To activate, say aloud, I solemnly swear that I am up to no good. To close, say aloud, mischief managed. Harry followed the instructions. In the next instant, Hogwarts unfolded across the parchment. Not just the castle itself, but every secret passage and the location of every person within its walls. Harry, we found this by following the clues left on your father's broomstick. It was hidden in Filch's drawer. We believe this treasure was meant for you, the Marauder's map. You've done all this for me without me even knowing. His voice trembled, thick with emotion. Turning away quickly, he wiped at his eyes, hoping we hadn't noticed. We pretended we hadn't. Slytherins never wore their feelings openly. That was simply our way. Huddling together, we watched the tiny figures moving across the map. Look, Quirrell, he's wandering around Hogwarts even at Christmas. On the parchment, his name hovered in a side corridor on the 4th floor. In the following days, he lingered there for hours at a time. That's the very spot Dumbledore warned us about during the welcoming feast. He said anyone who approached would meet a terrible end. Classic misdirection, trapped to lure the curious in. Dumbledore must have expected students to flock there out of sheer curiosity. But Harry valued his life more than the old man had counted on. He must be hiding something there, Draco muttered. We were getting close to the truth now. Good work, Draco. Let's search online. Draco flipped open his computer. Thanks to Lucius's far-sighted investments, wizards had their own private network. The Malfoy family owned the rights. Imagine the fortune that would bring in the future. Draco typed Albus Dumbledore in the search bar. An avalanche of results appeared. An entire web page couldn't even contain his full biography. Look, Gringotts robbery. It happened just before we started school. The owner of Vault 713 was Dumbledore himself, and according to the goblins, although the vault had been opened, nothing appeared to be stolen, which means it must have already been removed. And now it's hidden in the fourth floor corridor of Hogwarts. Reckless, absolutely reckless. Was testing the so-called chosen one more important than the lives of every young wizard here? A treasure desired by countless greedy souls, practically flaunted in plain sight. Voldemort wasn't the only one who dreamed of immortality. Any madman could set their sights on breaching Hogwarts's defenses. Truthfully, Dumbledore needn't have severed ties with Grindelwald. They were the same kind of man. Visionaries willing to sacrifice everything for a world that existed only in their own imagination, madmen divided only by which banner they served. A treasure with powers akin to unicorn blood, what could it possibly be? Harry murmured. My heart leapt into my throat. Chapter 124, 1,000 Threads of Connection. Aurora, you should know a bit more than I can say. Bound by an unbreakable oath, Harry could only speak in hints. Unicorn blood, if freely given, can extend a human's life. It also holds powerful healing properties. For some reason, a sharp ache pierced my chest. The wand in my hand trembled faintly, as if sharing my unease. This willingly offered horn, how did it end up with me? Through so many twists and turns it found its way here. From what Eric implied, this unicorn is very much like me. Between us lies a web of countless, invisible threads. Aurora, I'll never let anyone hurt you, not even myself. Draco stepped forward. Sensing the storm in my heart, he drew me into his arms. So will I. Harry reached out, enclosing my hand in his. Leaning against Draco's chest, I let myself sink into the warmth and stillness of the moment. The door opened and Abraxas entered, catching sight of the scene. Aurora, you're just like Sissy, always so well loved. Heat flooded my face. Mortified, I hastily pulled away from them both. Don't go. Draco caught me as I tried to slip away, muttering under his breath. Lucius was the same way, clingy. You'll get used to it, Abraxas offered in Draco's defense. I'm taking a bath. I was ready to die of embarrassment. The instant Draco's grip loosened, I darted out of reach. So many gifts, Aurora hasn't even opened them, Harry murmured. She can do it later. It's not like they matter much, Draco replied carelessly. He didn't notice the fleeting shadow that crossed Harry's face. Because no, we hadn't yet opened the one from him. What's this? A Weasley package? Draco peered curiously. Inside lay a hand-knitted sweater with a large scarlet P stitched right in the center. Your relationship with the Weasleys has already reached the point of exchanging Christmas gifts? Draco's expression twisted with distaste. In the Forbidden Forest, he nearly fainted from the eyed spider. I carried him back, I explained. Inside the gift was a letter besides the usual Christmas greetings. Ron emphasized that the sweater had been hand-knitted by his mother. Ugh, you can find these shoddy handmade sweaters everywhere, Draco scoffed. Draco, I don't have a mother to knit me a sweater anymore. Harry's eyes glazed over as he spoke dryly, stating a simple fact. Harry, I'm sorry. Draco fidgeted, irritated at himself, wondering how he'd become this way. Christmas was supposed to be happy, a time for family, but the Weasleys were nothing but bad luck. What's wrong? I took a quick combat-style shower to calm myself, only to find Draco awkwardly standing off to the side. Seeing me return, he finally exhaled, as if my presence had rescued him. Aurora, I'll go wash up too. He followed my lead and left the scene. Scanning the room, I noticed Harry holding another sweater. With the context of past events, I pieced together what had happened. Harry, a sweater can protect us from the cold, but it can't warm the heart. I tightened my robe around me and sat beside him. Thank you, Harry. What? Thank you for your gift. You already opened it. His face lit up with surprise. It was a two-way mirror. The other half should be with Harry. I'll take good care of it. Aurora, I'm sorry. I really couldn't find anything proper to give you. You don't lack for anything, he scratched his head awkwardly. Your gift is precious, and the most important thing is the thought behind it, isn't it? Ours was just a blank piece of parchment, I said, giving him a playful wink. He opened his mouth to argue, then just let a small smile tug at the corners. There was a faint glimmer in his eyes, like green gemstones catching the light. By the last day before returning to school, Lucius and Narcissa arrived back at Malfoy Manor, laden with parcels. "Children, did you enjoy your holiday?" Narcissa kissed each child on the forehead. When she came to Harry, she instinctively avoided his lightning-shaped scar. "Mom, I missed you so much," I sighed inwardly, longing for Narcissa's soft, fragrant embrace. But there was never enough time alone with her. Meanwhile, the always busy Malfoy patriarch seemed to have nothing better to do than be a permanent third wheel. I shoved the new set of lingerie to the very bottom of the drawer. The sudden addition of such private belongings made it hard to face the boy I spent every day with. Of course, Draco was the first to notice something had changed. For once, he didn't tease me. His cheeks went pink, and I couldn't tell what was going through his mind. He cleared out a space in his cabinet, pointing toward it. "You don't have to hide them, you can keep them here." Then, as if to reassure me, he added, "I won't peek." Which, honestly, only made it sound more suspicious. Still, since he looked so sincere, I muttered, "Then turn around first." "All right." For once, the boy obeyed quietly. Draco was at that age where his whole frame seemed to stretch upward, like a sapling shooting toward the sky. Though he trained often, his lean, sculpted muscles didn't overwhelm, rather, they made him look more refined. "You can turn back now." I shut the cabinet tight, suddenly feeling awkward. We'd always been close, yet now privacy had crept in between us. He caught everything in his gaze. My waist tightened under his arm as he bent close, brushing his nose against my hair. Aurora were both growing up. In just one holiday, he seemed to have shot up a few more centimeters. His shadow stretched over me, long fingers engulfing my entire hand. "Aurora's so small. Everything about you is so small." Fresh from being dazzled by Narcissa's figure, I glanced down at my own chest. "Yeah, small." "It's only temporary," I snapped, flustered. "Back in China, I was definitely not small. With Narcissa's excellent genes, this body had plenty of room to catch up. Yes, that had to be it." "Sorry, I didn't mean it like that." Draco fumbled over his words, face reddening further. "I know, I was teasing." Draco's looks, much like Narcissa's, carried a natural coolness, a hint of distance, which only made his rare moments of softness more endearing. This time, instead of letting me win, he suddenly lunged straight for my underarms. He knew I was deathly ticklish. "Ha ha, stop, Draco, no." I twisted frantically, arms clamped down, trying to block his relentless attack. But all it did was back me into a corner. His nimble fingers brushed my sensitive waist, making my legs nearly give out. I almost collapsed onto the floor. Seeing me about to fall, he caught me swiftly, pulling me tight against him. I clung to his shoulders, legs instinctively wrapping around his waist to steady myself. He froze for a second, then suddenly tossed me onto the bed. The thick blankets swallowed me up like a cloud, leaving me cushioned and weightless. The Malfoy mattresses were springy. I didn't feel any pain. "What are you doing?" Had he never heard of gentle handling? For the first time, I realized just how coquettish my own voice could sound. Like it had hooks hidden in it. And then my mouth was sealed. A heavy weight pressed me down into the blankets, his whole presence crashing over me. Draco, you're heavy," I whispered against him. His gaze darkened, eyes fixed on the movements of my lips. Then, he leaned in again. I shoved the new set of undergarments into the very bottom of my drawer. Having something so private all of a sudden made it hard to face the boy I lived with day and night. Draco was the first to notice my strange behavior. For once, he didn't tease me. His cheeks flushed pink, as if caught up in some thought of his own. He cleared a space in one of his cabinets and pointed at it. "You don't need to hide things, you can keep them here." Then hastily added, "I won't peek." Which, of course, sounded exactly like he would. But his sincerity softened me. "Then turn around," I muttered. All right, the boy, unusually obedient, did as told. Draco was in that stage where his body was shooting up like a young sapling, taller, straighter, leaner. Though he trained often, his muscle was sleek rather than heavy, never giving off an oppressive air. "You can turn back now." I slammed the cabinet shut and locked it, suddenly self-conscious. We were so close, yet privacy had crept between us. He noticed everything. His arm slipped around my waist, his breath tickled at my hair. Aurora, we're both growing up. He had shot up again over the holidays, several centimeters taller. His shadow fell over me completely, his long fingers easily wrapping around my hand. Aurora, so small, everything about you is small. Fresh from being dazzled by Narcissa's figure, I dropped my gaze to my own chest. Well, yes, too small. It's only temporary, I snapped, cheeks burning. The me from Huigua was not small at all. With Narcissa's good genes, this body had plenty of potential, definitely. Sorry, I didn't mean it like that, Draco fumbled to explain, his face growing redder. I know, I was teasing. Like his mother, Draco's features carried a natural chill, a kind of elegant distance. But that only made his rare slips all the more disarming. This time, though, he didn't let me win. His fingers darted at my ribs. He knew perfectly well I was extremely ticklish. Ha, stop, Draco, don't. I twisted and wriggled to escape, clamping my arms tight, but he only pressed harder. Cornered, laughter stealing my breath, my knees weakened. When his clever fingers brushed a sensitive spot at my waist, I nearly collapsed to the floor. Seeing me stumble, he caught me up against him at once. I clung to his shoulders, my legs tightening around his waist for balance. He froze for a beat, then tossed me onto the bed. Layers of blankets cushioned me, swallowing me like clouds. The Malfoy mattresses were soft enough that I hardly felt the impact. What was that for? Didn't he know the meaning of gentle? And was that really, my voice breathless and lilting like a hook? Before I could catch myself, my lips were sealed. The weight of him pressed me deep into the bedding, his shadow swallowing me whole. Draco, you're heavy, I whispered. His gaze was unreadable, fixed on the movement of my lips. He bent closer, brushing against me again. Liar, he murmured with smug delight. I'm holding back. He propped himself above me, arms braced at my shoulders, eyes glittering down with pride. Aurora, it was you who tempted me first. The Peach, always so quick to shift the blame, typical scoundrel. I grumbled, trying to push him off me, but in my fumbling I touched something I definitely shouldn't have. This time, it was his turn to groan. Draco, are you all right? I asked, worried. He stayed silent, still pressed against me. His hair brushed against my neck, prickly and ticklish. And just above my stomach, there was something hard, and growing hotter. Oh my God. Aurora, Jess, let me hold you a little longer. Draco's voice came against my ear, deeper and huskier than usual, carrying a magnetic weight I wasn't used to. It was a long time before he finally calmed down. I was too embarrassed to even glance at him. Sorry, I'll just go to the washroom. His face tight with restraint, he quickly rolled off me. Phew. I let out a breath of relief. Western boys really do mature earlier than Eastern ones. He stayed in the bathroom a long time, and when he came out, he'd changed from head to toe. Come here, I'll dry your hair for you. All right. He sat down in front of me. His platinum hair dampened, looked darker than usual. Aurora. Don't move, I'll give you a little massage. Imitating Narcissa, I threaded my fingers through his soft hair, brushing against his scalp. That feels nice, he smiled faintly and poked my cheek. Don't interrupt the work of your #1 stylist. And if I tipped generously, he slipped into character instantly. Well, that's better. Unbelievable, Aurora. Where on earth did you pick this up? He caught my wrists, holding me still. From Mom and Dad, of course. I looked up at him with wide, innocent eyes. Is that wrong? Good Lord, no more of that. Next time I'll whisk you away before you learn anything else. I knew too well the danger of pushing things too far, so I nodded obediently. Inside, though, I was about to burst out laughing. All right, enough fooling around. I'm not finished yet. I smoothed a little hair oil into the ends of his locks and switched on the dryer. Aurora, if we could always stay like this, it'd be perfect. The whirring was too loud, I didn't catch the rest of what he said. I simply answered absent-mindedly, of course. Let's stay this way forever. Forever living at Malfoy Manor, together with the family. But then, the thought struck me before long, Lucius would bring Bellatrix Lestrange here, the Bellatrix Mad Witch of the Potter Saga, an ally to Voldemort, the Dark Lord who shattered his own soul into 7 pieces. According to the original story, Voldemort's resurrection hinged on the ritual from the Goblet of Fire. Bone of the father, taken from the grave of Tom Riddle Asar. Flesh of the servant, willingly given Peter Pettigrew's arm. Blood of the foe, forcibly taken Harry Potter's blood. And the ones who secured these vital elements were none other than Wormtail and Barty Crouch Jr. If not for them, to protect the fragile happiness I found, I wouldn't hesitate to stain my hands with blood. Unicorns, for all their beauty, grace, and purity, are fierce at heart. For freedom, they will pay any price. Ron Weasley's pet rat Scabbers, wasn't he actually Pettigrew's animagus? And his nemesis, the half-Kneasel Crookshanks, could sniff out Animagi with ease. Yes, I think I know exactly what I must do. That night I called Draco and Harry to accompany me to Diagon Alley to pick out a pet. In the original story, Crookshanks was bought by Hermione Granger before her 3rd year. Before that, the cat had languished in the pet shop, overlooked by everyone. Hopefully our luck would be better. Be careful on the way, and you too take good care of Aurora, Narcissa said earnestly, adjusting the brim of my hat. My Aurora is so beautiful. She pinched my nose affectionately. Mom, you're practically bragging about me, I teased. Everyone said I looked like her, and she accepted the compliment with a gentle smile. Only my father and I could see her true appearance beneath the double confundus charm. Perhaps deep down, she secretly enjoyed the admiration of the outside world. Marrying the possessive head of the Malfoy family, well, that came with its own challenges. Agur, Rora, Harry, help me. Lost in my thoughts, I suddenly heard Draco's call for help. The free, roaming animals in the shop had surrounded him. Alchemical charms could hide his face, but they couldn't stop the magical creatures from being irresistibly drawn to him. As I stepped forward, I drew some of their attention. Several cats scrambled up my legs, and then a massive ginger cat leapt directly onto my shoulder. Its face looked almost flattened. Crookshanks, I murmured. It purred and tilted its chin toward me, signaling for a scratch. Aurora, pick another one, it's too ugly, Draco muttered. Crookshanks suddenly turned on him, eyes sharp and piercing. Wait, it understands. Draco jumped back in surprise. To me, cats were adorable regardless of looks. Their proud, aloof personalities were part of their charm. It's very clever. I stroked its belly. This is the one. Whatever you said, Draco glared at Crookshanks in return. Children, Harry chuckled indulgently, reaching out to pat Crookshanks on the head. Aurora must have a reason for choosing this mixed-breed cat. Perhaps unused to human wizards' attention, the sudden affection made the clever cat cautious. Crookshanks leapt to my other shoulder, avoiding Harry's hand. Draco, however, looked smug and teased. I won't call you ugly, come over here. Using a bit of his magical influence, the ginger giant actually fell for it. Hempish, that's cheating, I muttered softly. Don't worry, I won't use it on you, Draco swore silently. Of course not, I thought. If that were true, when I transformed into a unicorn, would I obey Draco without question? A strange emotion surged inside me. I wrapped my arms around myself, instinctively protective. Once upon a time, someone had used this power to hurt me deeply. Aurora, are you cold? The shop's fireplace crackled warmly. Harry's hand lightly touched my forehead. No fever. Draco, who had just been joking around, immediately straightened up. Why didn't you say something if you felt unwell? He shoved Crookshanks into Harry's arms and leaned close to feel the temperature on my forehead, brows furrowed with worry. Harry's gaze was far too sharp. I quickly turned my head away. Let's go. Draco panicked. He tossed a handful of galleons onto the counter, grabbed my hand and bolted. Young Master Malfoy, your change! The shopkeeper called after us. Keep it, Draco shouted back. I shot Harry a look, and he smoothly caught the coins, just as the shopkeeper was about to pocket them. Aurora, you're not even well, and you're still fussing over nonsense? Draco scolded, exasperated. You little miser. It's not like Mum and Dad ever deprived you of anything. Your money is my money. I won't let you waste it. Draco couldn't help but laugh. Fine. From now on, you'll manage my finances. Warmth bloomed in both our hearts. Harry, let me carry it. After all, I was the one who chose the pet. Having Harry hold it felt wrong. It's heavy. I'll take care of it. Harry declined politely. Crookshanks glared, puffed up with indignation, fixing his round eyes on me and Draco. Somehow, I could read the cat's emotions from its expression. No wonder Hermione picked it. This cat really was clever. It's fine. If I don't hold it, it'll get upset. I stretched my arms out and took it anyway. And what about me? A sigh brushed my ear. What? I hadn't quite caught that. Nothing. Just worried it might scratch you, Harry murmured, stroking Crookshank's forehead. This time the cat didn't resist. It froze, oddly compliant under his hand. But why were its hind legs trembling? Was it afraid of Harry? Or was it just too cold? No, impossible, its fur was thick and lush. Then, oh! Crookshanks wriggled free from the cage and leapt straight into my arms. There, let's go home now, I soothed it softly. Harry! It was the Weasleys. Of all the rotten timing. Ron came waving, his signature red hair whipped into a mess by the wind. The gusts had turned his freckled face a blotchy crimson. I couldn't explain it, but I truly disliked this family. Well, maybe not entirely without prejudice. Molly Weasley, Ron's mother, looked the picture of warmth and kindness. Thank you so much for the Christmas gift you sent me, Harry greeted politely. I hope you liked it. The moment she noticed Harry wasn't wearing her hand-knit sweater, disappointment flickered openly across her face. Yes, I like it very much. Harry kept the exchange brief, while Molly and Arthur eagerly invited him to visit the burrow. My mum's cooking is the best, Ron declared proudly. Little Ronikins is terribly afraid of spiders, Molly added with fond exasperation. He wrote to us it was you who carried him out of the forbidden forest. She reached out, tenderly stroking Harry's face. Harry instinctively flinched. His childhood of abuse had left him wary of touch, especially from strangers. Even with the Malfoys, it had taken him a long time to adjust. Molly's hand hovered awkwardly in midair. Realizing what he'd done, Harry quickly apologized, sincerity in his voice. Sorry, ma'am, the Muggle world left me with scars. His eyes darted away, unfocused. That only deepened Molly's maternal sorrow and guilt. Oh dear, I'm so sorry, she wrung her hands, eyes nearly brimming with tears. I should get back, my friends are waiting. Harry offered a shy smile, ready to leave. But suddenly Crookshanks sprang from my arms and pounced straight at Ron. Chapter 130, Something's Wrong with That Rat. Though Crookshanks was a cat, his size was extraordinarily larger even than a Maine Coon, the giants among felines. Ron screamed, too startled to dodge, and Crookshanks landed squarely on him. Aurora, are we really keeping this cat? Draco wrinkled his nose in distaste. Such poor taste, it only goes after paupers? Brother, don't say that. Crookshanks understands. My eyes followed his lightning-quick movements. And just as I expected, he returned with that mutilated rat, the one missing a finger. Disgusting. Aurora, make it drop whatever's in its mouth. Draco, with his mild obsession for cleanliness, loathed anything filthy or of dubious origin. Back in Huaguo, cats often showed gratitude to their owners by presenting their catches. Some would even sneak prey into their owner's bed. I remembered hearing of one that delivered a slippery toad into its master's hands in the middle of the night. The thought of that clammy texture made me suddenly sympathetic to Draco's reaction. Crookshanks, I called sharply. But now was hardly the right moment to expose Peter Pettigrew. He was still seen as a war hero celebrated for dueling bravely against Sirius Black, the supposed traitor of Harry's parents. If his true identity were revealed too soon, the Order of the Phoenix might shield him, making it far harder to gather evidence later. I stroked Crookshanks' head and whispered, well done. The thing's wrong. We'll need to be patient. Silently, I placed a tracking charm upon the rat. Crookshanks noticed. He gave the faintest nod before trotting over and dropping the rat before the Weasley family. Aurora, this cat is unbelievable, but when we're home, it's getting disinfected. Draco slid his arm over my shoulder. Ron exhaled shakily, then shouted from across the street, Malfoy girl, control your cat. I don't want to see it at Hogwarts. I opened my mouth, but Harry spoke first. Sorry, Aurora's pet was only following its instincts. That still doesn't mean, Ron tried to cut in. Right after the incident, Aurora stopped things from getting worse and returned your pet, Harry countered firmly. Though his expression was calm, his voice carried weight. We'll keep our pets in check, but asking that Crookshanks never appear at Hogwarts is unreasonable. Ren's outburst had been little more than words spoken in anger. He was the wronged party, yet still the one being lectured. His resentment only grew. Fine then, I'll replace it for you. That rat looks ancient anyway. Draco cast a dismissive glance at the creature's patchy fur, his tone dripping with indifference. Scabbers is 11 years old. He's not something you can just buy with gold. Go back to your manor. All you Malfoys have is galleons. Ron finally snapped, his words spilling out unchecked. Draco ignored the sharp edge of Ron's insults. His expression grew serious. Did you say an 11-year-old rat? Harry caught the same inconsistency at once, speaking in unison. An animagus? The boy turned toward Molly and Arthur, his face grave. In this moment, perhaps only Harry's voice could reach them. Mr. Weasley, Mrs. Weasley, there's something wrong with this rat. Chapter 131. Pointed Clashes. Ren instinctively shook his head. Scabbers just lived longer than most. Rats usually live 1 to 3 years. Draco thought it over, then spoke with certainty. It's very likely an animagus. That can't be. The Ministry's registry has no record of a rat animagus, Arthur countered confidently. After all, he worked there himself. And what if it's an unregistered, illegal animagus? Harry's patience frayed, but he pressed on gently. This Arthur and Molly exchanged uneasy looks, the possibility beginning to weigh on them. I suggest we hand it over to the proper department for testing, Harry said, offering a measured solution. Suddenly, Scabbers squirmed free of Ron's grip and bolted, disappearing into a drainpipe. Damn it, he panicked. It's your talk that scared him off. I'd say that makes him even more suspicious. Draco and Harry exchanged a glance, reaching the same conclusion. Arthur tried for a strained smile. If it truly is an illegal animagus, then it belongs at Malfoy Manor, not crammed in our burrow. Yes, your theory doesn't hold water. And now we've lost a pet we've cared for all these years. How unlucky, Molly added, her heart aching as she turned to Ron. My apologies, Mrs. Weasley. Outwardly, it was true we appeared to be at fault. Aurora, don't apologize. They're clearly covering something up. Who knows how much they really know about this animagus? Draco bristled, unable to bear seeing me wronged. And just like that my thoughts snapped into place. Draco, you never fail me. The Weasleys were a traditional family. The husband worked outside, the wife ruled the home. Arthur was a low-ranking ministry clerk, bound to his daily duties. Molly, a full-time mother, kept the household running. But if she knew the truth about Scabbers being an animagus, then while Arthur was away, could Peter Pettigrew have resumed human form, engaging in a secret, forbidden romance with Molly? What a twisted pairing that would be. Arthur's face darkened, paling one moment, flushing the next. He had clearly considered the same possibility. Seems the Malfoys would know all about such things. George snapped back. I hear Malfoy Manor's crawling with rare beasts. Maybe they're all your mother's little pets. Shut your mouth. The three of us drew our wands in unison. The Weasleys had finally turned the tables, with Arthur and Molly choosing to remain silent spectators as George sullied Narcissa's name. All right, enough. George was only joking. Molly raised her hand and brought it down on George's head, seemingly forceful, though the blow was carefully restrained. Apologize to Mrs. Malfoy. Harry's voice rang out, his eyes locked on Molly, full of disappointment. He had only just begun to see the Weasleys differently. And this was the result. Children permitted to speak filth, to spit malice. Pranks at Hogwarts that, when stripped bare, reeked of bullying. Well, touched a nerve, did we? Guess we hit the sore spot, Fred piled on, fanning the flames. I couldn't endure it any longer. I was ready to unleash the power within me, even if it meant blinding the twins on the spot. But Draco was faster. His spell was already flying. Fred and George's necks seemed to be lifted into the air, their entire bodies suspended as their legs flailed desperately. I had to lean in carefully to see clearly. A thin, bloody line had been carved around the twins' throats. Their voices emitted choking, gurgling sounds. 1 more inch, and their tracheas would be cut. At that point, even begging Merlin wouldn't save them. They'd become ghosts. It was the first time I truly saw the power of the vines. The delicate shoots that had once supported me at my waist could transform into such a terrifying secret weapon. Help! Help! Molly tried to save her children, but Draco didn't even open his mouth. She had no idea what kind of magic had been used. Pointing her wand at him, she shouted threats. Put them down immediately, or I won't mind sending you to meet Merlin sooner. Molly was capable of following through. In the original story, to protect Ginny, she had personally killed one of Voldemort's most loyal lieutenants, Bellatrix Lestrange. I stepped in front of Draco, fearing she might suddenly cast an Avada Kedavra. It was your son who attacked our mother first, and what proof is there that it was our magic? Wasn't your last attempt to frame us humiliating enough? You little Malfoy brat, don't tell us what to do here. That line again. What exactly did the Weasleys know? Why did they always bring up my bloodline? Suddenly Arthur was punched to the ground. Helpless, he clutched his face and shouted at the air. Whoever it is, fight like a man. Don't hide in the gutters like rats. You were too slow. Lucius gracefully wiped his hands with a handkerchief, as if he had just touched something filthy. I had always thought that his and Narcissus' hands were like perfect works of art, slender, graceful fingers. He casually dropped his dragon-hide gloves to the floor and said expressionlessly, dirty. Clad in a tailored black coat, his platinum hair caught by the breeze, he looked striking and imposing. In his hand, he held a half-human, height serpent-headed wand, but he hadn't used a single spell. Just standing there, his overwhelming presence made Arthur collapse to the ground again. Molly tried to lift her husband, but found herself powerless. Draco, well done, Lucius said, patting his son's shoulder. I am pleased that you defend Sissy so loyally. His expression softened with pride and affection. Then he spoke more seriously. Aurora is my daughter. The Malfoy family blood curse has been broken. The Malfoy line is no longer reserved only for boys. Looking down at Arthur, he added, if I ever hear anyone disparage the Malfoy name again, I will have no qualms about sending your entire family to meet Merlin. Father, Merlin's place is much more spacious than a hovel. You can't go easy on them. Draco gazed at Lucius with admiration. Draco, let me show you a trick. With a casual wave of his hand, the Weasley twins were slammed to the ground. They coughed violently, gasping for air, faces pale with relief at surviving. I finally understood their power wasn't any form of martial art. It must be unique to elves. And Lucius' power surpassed even Draco's. Draco, physical pain is fleeting, but psychological pain lasts. Lucius' voice was soft, but I knew exactly what that meant. The Weasleys were finished. Is this the rat you lost? Lucius drawled with distaste, opening his palm. A mangy rat with a missing toe writhed and twisted helplessly in midair. That's him. That's Scabbers! Ron cried out in relief. Scabbers? Lucius's mouth curved into a mocking smile. He murmured a strange incantation under his breath, and the rat's face contorted in agony. It squealed shrilly for mercy. No, please, Mr. Malfoy, don't! Ron was on the verge of tears. I don't torture animals. Lucius gave him a cutting glance. Open your eyes. See who this really is. The rat's tiny body began to warp and swell. Its fur sprouted, then fell away in patches. And in its place, a balding, short, sallow man. His beady, shifty eyes made him look every bit the rat he'd been. Naked and shivering on the cold floor, he looked utterly pathetic. An unregistered animagus, Lucius mused aloud, though his every word was pitched for all to hear. By rights, you should be dragged straight to the ministry. The man quaked violently. No, don't please. Suddenly his eyes lit with desperate hope. He scrambled toward Harry on hands and knees. You must be Harry Potter. I was Lily and James's dearest friend. Peter Pettigrew? Lucius sneered down at him, contempt sharp in his gaze. A first-class Order of Merlin recipient, reduced to scuttling around as a rat? Sirius Black rots in Azkaban, and you faked your death. For what? Lucius's tone turned probing, curious despite the disdain. Lucius, why waste breath? One vial of Veritaserum will sort this out. Snape didn't spare Pettigrew so much as a glance. He sent Dumbledore a quick message, then drawled lazily, still, better to administer it with the full Wisengamot present. Father, he's trying to transform again, I warned quickly. No need to worry, Aurora. He's lost the ability, Draco whispered at my ear. What do you mean? Draco nodded smugly. It was the elves' gift. Spirits of all living things, they held natural dominion over plants and beasts. Lucius Malfoy, master strategist, never left himself vulnerable. Catching the way Draco, and I looked at him with open awe, the corner of Lucius's mouth ticked upward ever so slightly. Severus, I'll leave the rest to you. Sissy's waiting at home for us. He glanced at us three-third wheels and shook his head in mock regret. Snape all but rolled his eyes to the ceiling. Then why are you still standing here? I'd rather not be on the receiving end of Lady Malfoy's inquiries. Ah, Severus, you don't understand. After all these years, you really should find a woman. Lucius clapped his old friend's shoulder. In Snape's black eyes, a shadow of loneliness flickered. Professor Snape, my rat really turned into a man? Ron stammered, still unable to process what he'd seen. As you can see, Snape said curtly. He turned to Arthur and Molly. Please stay, Albus will be here shortly. Severus, we had no idea. Arthur, how could this happen? Molly's voice quavered, her panic plain. She was plump and sturdy, entirely unsuited to the fragile bird act. Beside Arthur, she looked more like a fortress wall. My apologies, Lucius. Severus, I'm late. Dumbledore appeared in a whirl of magic, his voice calm, steady, commanding. He soothed the Weasleys, first cornerstones of the Order of the Phoenix, then turned to the man still crouched on the floor. It's been a long time, Peter. Everyone's been wondering what became of you. His eyes twinkled faintly as he smiled. One of your old friends has been longing for this reunion. Would you care to oblige him? So this was the true face of that white, bearded trickster. His eyes blazed as they swept over me. Aurora, is this your new pet? He asked, the earlier edge in his voice vanishing as though it had never been. In the next instant, he was once more the kindly old man. Yes, Professor Dumbledore. His name is Crookshanks. A fine child, he murmured, stroking the cat's fur with gentle affection. Crookshanks purred contentedly. Professor Dumbledore, Lucius spoke gravely, this matter involves many interests. My brother-in-law, Sirius Black, was thrown into Azkaban with undue haste. I hope this time the truth will be properly investigated. Sirius Black, Narcissa Black's cousin. Strictly speaking, both Draco and I ought to call him uncle. The family bond was faint, but the name was shared all the same. It was said they had once lived together at the Black ancestral home 12 Grimmauld Place. Dumbledore's expression hardened. It will be, he promised. Then his eyes, soft with pity, turned to Harry. The boy stood bewildered, unaware that the shabby, illegal animagus before him was the very traitor who had doomed his parents. A small, insignificant figure, yet one whose choices had determined the fate of so many. Lucius, take the children home first. Yes, may all go well, Professor Dumbledore. Without another word, Lucius lifted me into his arms and apparated away. Harry and Draco, resigned, drew out their portees. Lucius was a strict father. He held Draco to the same high standards he demanded of himself. But with me, he was far more gentle. He always said that daughters must be treasured and sheltered, so they would not be sweet, talked by some penniless boy and end up losing both love and fortune. I had to admit, his philosophy aligned neatly with my own. Back in Huaguo, there were countless tales of marriages bound by fate alone, only to collapse into endless squabbles after the vows. Economic foundation determined everything built upon it. Today's events must be kept from Sissy. Understood? Lucius instructed us firmly. Are you planning to surprise Mother? Draco asked with a knowing look. Not a surprise, a shock. Lucius shot him a glare. Your uncle may be scorned as a traitor to pure-blood families, but he would never have betrayed his closest friend. He glanced at Harry before continuing. He and your father were inseparable since boyhood. Their bond was ironclad. We were older by a few years, watched them both grow up in fact. Lucius ruffled Harry's messy hair, almost soothingly. Dumbledore may seem unreliable, but when it comes to matters of true weight, he will uncover the truth. Harry nodded firmly. I believe you. Father, why were you in Diagon Alley? Without him, none of this could have gone so smoothly. Sissy insisted, he said with a helpless sigh. She couldn't rest easy sending the three of you off alone. She made me follow in secret and warned me not to be seen. His expression suggested just how undignified the act of skulking had felt for a Malfoy. Yet his eyes overflowed with devotion for his wife, almost drowning in it. So that was it, Narcissa's fierce love for her children. Father, what is the Malfoy blood curse? At last, I had the chance to ask. Armand never told you? Lucius caught my bewildered look and began to explain. The Malfoy family's elven bloodline comes from Armand. Armand's father Legolas was said to be an elf of high standing among his kind. For reasons unknown, he chose to leave them behind alone. He had only one heir, Armand. Even our family name Malfoy traces back to the elves. It said Legolas's own father cast him out and branded him with a name meant as an insult. Malfoy, cunning, untrustworthy. And he did it all for a woman. In her blood ran a curse. The Malfoy line would pass on only through a single heir each generation and always a son. Sissy's birth was an anomaly, and with it, the curse of single-heir succession was broken. "What do you mean?" I asked. This was the mystery that had haunted me for years. "Sissy is a creation of magic," Lucius said pointedly. "She carries the Malfoy bloodline as well. That's why she awakened as an elf. So grandfather created mother. That's also why she could defy the Malfoy blood curse and give birth to both Draco and me." "Clever girl." He brushed his hand through my hair. "But Armand has opposed you since the day you were born." "I can't say why. His temper is peculiar. Best to avoid him whenever you can. Can you promise me that, Aurora?" I nodded solemnly. I knew how much he liked me to appear obedient, gentle. "Aurora, you are so much like your mother." "Father, really? Gone for only a few hours, and you act as though you've been parted from her for years." I knew it. He was eager to end the conversation. The Malfoy patriarch, utterly besotted with his wife. My forehead earned me a firm flick. "Mind your manners. Always teasing me and your mother. Anyway, you needn't doubt you are my daughter. I saw your birth with my own eyes." He produced a photograph. In it, Narcissa had just given birth. Though weary, she looked radiant. 2 infants lay sleeping soundly in their swaddling cloths. A young Lucius, eyes damp with emotion, kissed his wife's forehead with reverence, his face lit with the joy of survival after fear. He didn't spare a single glance for his newborns. Malfoys had never once borne twins. I didn't know how to protect her. I was terrified of losing her. His voice broke despite his efforts to steady it. In the original tale, Lucius was painted as a villain's lackey, but here he was the best husband Narcissa could have had. Suddenly, a silver stag burst into Malfoy Manor. In Snape's voice it said, "Lucius, there's news. Bring Narcissa and Harry to Azkaban." Before vanishing, it glanced in my direction and added a pointed instruction. "Do not bring Draco or Aurora." "Father, why?" This was my doing. How could I be excluded when the results were finally here? "Your wands are both made with unicorn hair. It makes your natures purer than most. Azkaban is guarded by Dementors. You'd be more vulnerable to them than others." "Pure of heart?" So basically, he was calling us more gullible than everyone else. The first time I heard a direct compliment from my own father, I almost spat out a mouthful of blood from sheer disbelief. Seeing my stubborn expression, Lucius lifted the corner of his lips and said, "You and Draco have been raised in comfort, without hardship. Having a good heart isn't a bad thing. There's no need to overanalyze it. I just hope that you two can always stay like this." A privileged life was also the result of the Malfoy patriarch's efforts. He faced the chaos of the outside world alone, shielding our family beneath a protective sky. As he threw on his coat, he added, "You and Draco watch the house properly. Don't wait up for us, and no staying up late." "All right, nagging dad." So there we were, side by side, at the vast Malfoy dining table. "Mysterious and secretive. I wonder what they're off to," Draco muttered quietly. Round-headed, content Crookshanks sat patiently nearby, a neatly tied napkin around him, enjoying his meal. Beside him was Narcissa's pet fox, Luke. I had worried that Luke might guard his food and bully the newcomer, but those fears proved completely unnecessary. The cat and the fox got along splendidly. Maybe it has something to do with Sirius. In the original story, Sirius had trusted Peter Pettigrew, requesting at the last moment a replacement for the Potter's secret keeper, which ultimately exposed their location to Voldemort. Ever since, Sirius had lived in regret, willing to ruin his own future to atone for his best friend and his wife. Extreme, intense love. Members of the Black family tended to be a little obsessive. We've only seen him in photos. Draco and I were born shortly before Sirius was imprisoned in Azkaban, so we had no memories of him. If it's proven he's innocent, then inheriting the Black ancestral home won't fall to Mom. Draco's tone held a hint of disappointment. Indeed, it was no small fortune. The former Black family was almost as illustrious as the Malfoys. "Draco, what we have is already enough. It's best not to be too greedy." "I wonder which miser wouldn't even spare a single nut," Draco teased. "I hear Sirius' maternal uncle is quite generous. If we play our cards right, he might loosen his grip and let some wealth slip our way. In the original, Sirius had lavishly gifted Harry a firebolt, the fastest, newest flying broom in the wizarding world. Aurora, am I not generous enough for you? Do you really need to rely on someone else? A voice suddenly sounded from behind. Oh no, social death. A silver nine-tailed fox, eyes narrowed dangerously, spoke in Lucius' voice. It was his patroness. Dad, we were just joking with Draco. How could you hear us? It was mortifying. Sissy asked me to check if you two were eating properly, and what do I hear? Dad, you've said it yourself, girls should be raised with wealth. The more, the better. I forced a flattering smile. All right, we'll be back soon. Have the house elves prepare an extra guest room. The nine-tailed fox turned away with pride, ignoring my protests. This is bad, Dad's angry. Seeing my helpless expression, Draco quickly comforted me. Just cry poor in front of Mom, it'll solve everything. What's there to worry about? Right, in the Malfoy family, Narcissa is the ultimate authority. It was close to midnight when Lucius finally appeared in the hall with the others. Aurora, didn't I tell you to rest early? Draco, can't you even look after your sister? Though his words were sharp, the worry in his eyes was impossible to miss as he caught me stifling a yawn. Daddy, we can't sleep without you and Mummy giving us our goodnight kisses. I clung to Narcissa, pouting. Aurora, Narcissa coughed lightly, her eyes flicking a warning. Behind Harry patted a massive black dog, tail wagging, though its gaunt body and matted fur betrayed years of neglect. And this is Sirius. Come with me. Lucius led him into a side room. He's our cousin? Draco blurted the moment the door shut. Yes. Sirius has been in Azkaban for 11 years. Narcissa's gaze slid to Harry. He was wrongly accused. Harry's lashes veiled his emerald eyes, hiding whatever storm passed there. Not long after, a tall man stood in the doorway. Undeniably handsome. He'd rushed through a bath, droplets still clinging to his hair. Though 5 years younger than Lucius, Azkaban had left its mark standing beside the immaculately kept Malfoy lord. Sirius looked weathered, hollow-cheeked, his frame so thin his clothes seemed to hang loose. But his emotions ran fierce, his eyes fixed only on Harry. Sissy, may I speak with Harry alone? He asked quietly. Lucius's brow furrowed at the easy familiarity of Sissy. Very well. Narcissa gave us a look, then slipped her hand through her husband's arm, drawing him away to grant them privacy. Luke, James and Sirius were like brothers to me, she murmured, resting her cheek against his chest. Childhood acquaintances, nothing more. Only you would be so sentimental slipping him pocket money even after his family cast him out. Lucius's hand threaded through her hair with practiced tenderness. The Blacks gave us legitimacy. Looking after their last male heir was repayment of a debt, nothing more. Thank you, Luke, for doing so much for me. He tilted her chin, her lips parted before him, lush and inviting. Draco clapped a hand over my eyes. Not for children, Aurora. But the sight of the golden-haired Malfoys lost in each other's arms was so achingly beautiful. Before my imagination could fill in the rest, Sirius's voice cut in from outside. Sissy, Lucius, we're finished talking. Narcissa's lips were still flushed, her expression radiant. Then, Sirius, make yourself at home. Rest well tonight. She embraced him gently. You're Aurora. I heard it was your pet who uncovered Pettigrew's animagus form. Sirius towered over me. I had to tilt my head back just to meet his eyes. Then he crouched, leveling his gaze with mine, his tone unexpectedly gentle. Yes, sir. They say you're our cousin, and this is my brother, Draco. Thank you. Harry told me you're his best friends, just like James and I once were. His voice was thick with grief and nostalgia. Harry's doing well. He deserves family love and care. I let the words hang, deliberate. Because Sirius, Harry's godfather, had been absent for all of his childhood. He had drowned himself in grief for James, blind to the boy who had been left behind. And he knew better than anyone the misery of growing up orphaned. But he hadn't cared, not enough. His hope for tomorrow had died with James. Sirius's eyes brimmed with guilt, and he fled almost as though in shame. So this is Gryffindor bravery? I thought bitterly. Harry let out a sharp, derisive laugh. Never in my life had I imagined such scorn coming from him. Until now, he had always seemed to me a gentle, reserved boy. Draco and I exchanged startled looks. We had never seen Harry so stirred with emotion. "Shall we go inside and talk?" I tightened my robe around me. Just moments ago, curled beneath the same blanket with Draco resting in the crook of his arm, I hadn't felt the chill at all. Harry was about to shrug off his coat, but Draco beat him to it. He wrapped the blanket around me from head to toe, leaving only my face peeking out. "Huh, Aurora, you look like a ghost." I stretched out my arms and drifted toward them like a specter. Both of them dodged, and soon we were darting about, laughing, the tension on Harry's face melting away bit by bit. "Race you there!" I shouted, bolting toward the bedroom. "You little trickster, distracting us now, are you?" Draco was right on my heels. With his long legs, he caught me easily. I hadn't even touched the doorknob before he scooped me into his arms. "Give up, little trickster," he whispered in my ear. His arms locked tight around my waist. "No," I snapped back defiantly. But then his hands at my waist began to misbehave. "Stop, haha, that tickles." I lost my footing, nearly collapsing to the floor. He only kept at it, relentless. "It's late," Harry's voice came gently from behind. "If Aurora gets too worked up before bed, she won't sleep well." Draco finally relented. "Next time, not even Harry's pleas will save you," he muttered threateningly against my ear. "Fine," I pouted, lips pressed tight in faint sulkiness. But Draco's hand remained at my waist. I caught the flicker of shadow in Harry's eyes. "I don't understand," Harry murmured. "If Sirius was truly innocent, why won't he fight to clear his name? He calls himself my godfather, my parents' dearest friend. Yet he never once tried to claim guardianship from Dumbledore. If it weren't for Cousin Narcissa and Lucius, I'd still be in that cupboard under the stairs at number 4, Privet Drive. Maybe because he's a brainless Gryffindor?" Draco attempted a joke, hoping to cut through the heavy air. It didn't land. "Harry," I said softly, "to be honest, I don't fully understand his reasoning either. But perhaps, the moment your parents died, Sirius was shattered beyond repair. Peter Pettigrew's betrayal left him drowning in guilt, blaming himself for trusting the wrong person. He had no strength left to live, let alone to think of anything else. Neglecting you was wrong, yes, but don't let it consume you. Your life has already changed beyond recognition." The words tumbled out of me. I wasn't sure if any of it reached him. A godfather who appeared out of nowhere, love that arrived far too late. Could Harry even bear the weight of it? "Aurora, why are you defending that madman?" Draco muttered later, when at last the day wound down, and we prepared for bed. My eyelids grew heavy, and in my drowsiness I blurted without thinking, "I'm just striking first." "What do you mean?" "Who knows if Harry will one day accept Sirius? Staying neutral can't be wrong." Draco gave no reply, only a quiet sigh. "Aurora, you don't trust anyone, do you?" I was far too sleepy to respond to him. That night, I vaguely remembered a nightmare, an octopus coiling around me, binding me so tightly I couldn't break free. The next morning when I woke, I found Draco had me locked firmly in his arms. I was like driftwood floating on water, and he clung to me with both arms and legs. "Draco, wake up! We'll be late!" I nudged him lightly. He made a nasal sound but didn't budge. Pretending to sleep, his muscles were taut as a bowstring. Only one way left. I darted a hand toward his armpit. But before I could even touch him, my wrist was caught. Frank failed. His gray eyes gleamed with sly amusement. We were so close, I could feel the warmth of his breath against my skin. My cheeks burned. Then something hot and damp brushed my lips. A good morning kiss, one of our daily rituals. He stroked my cheek. "Why so red, Aurora? Are you shy?" His eyes glittered with the triumph of a trick well played. I refused to back down. I gave him one in return, and this time his face flushed. "Up now, or we'll be late." Draco tugged at his collar, speaking evasively. Clearly just as flustered as I was, yet trying to act smooth and worldly. "Wouldn't it be better if we both grew up together gradually, side by side?" By the time we were ready, the others were already seated at the table, each with their own expression. Narcissa's chair was, as always, empty. The lady of Malfoy Manor preferred her breakfast in bed. Sirius, after a night's rest, looked far better. He asked after Narcissa with a trace of concern. Every trip to Azkaban takes her a long time to recover from, Lucius replied, his face shadowed with worry. Ha, what an actor. Narcissa's mastery of dark magic was greater than Lucius's, as if a short visit to Azkaban could leave her bedridden. No, this was nothing more than the head of the Malfoy household, jealous at outsiders daring to call her sissy, seizing the chance to exact vengeance in his own way. All for his own indulgence. Uncle, you'll get used to it. As long as father's home, mother never gets up in the morning, Draco cut through the pretense directly. Sirius, eldest son of the Black family, naturally understood. He rubbed his nose, chuckling awkwardly. For once, Lucius didn't scold Draco for his bluntness. Instead, a smirk tugged at his lips, pride plain on his face. Sirius had been locked in Azkaban for 11 years. By that count, it had been a very long time since he'd had a woman. Merlin, what on earth am I thinking? Throughout breakfast, Sirius's manners were elegant. Seated near Harry, he spent the whole meal searching for topics to connect with him. Harry started stiff and self-conscious, but gradually grew animated, especially when Quidditch came up. His eyes lit, his hands gestured wildly. There's still time. Fancy a match? Sirius clapped his godson on the shoulder. Draco, you in too? Of course. At once, table manners were forgotten. The boys tossed aside their napkins and bolted toward the Malfoy Quidditch pitch. Not right after eating. No strenuous activity, Lucius shouted after them. When did I become the family nanny? He muttered to himself. Father, you're just helping mother take care of us, I chimed in. Girls really are the most thoughtful. Lucius inclined his head. Sissy always said daughters should be raised richly. Starting this month, your allowance will be doubled. I threw my arms around my generous patron father in a fierce hug. Be sure to thank your mother too, he whispered in my ear. Of course, I knew exactly who the real boss behind the scenes was. Although Lucius' main goal was to outshine Sirius, given the generous increase in my allowance, I still found myself siding with him. In the original story, when Sirius was released from prison, all the male companions felt immense pressure. Remus Lupin had even mistakenly thought that Tonks fancied him, sighing bitterly. No matter where Sirius goes, he's always popular with the girls. Yet, surprisingly, Lucius had his moments of insecurity. Clearly, Sirius had truly been Hogwarts' heart, throb back then. Narcissa arrived, fashionably late. She descended the staircase with elegance, her fitted silk nightgown tracing the curves of her body. Her expression was languid, with a touch of coquettish charm. Lucius, why is it just you and Aurora? Why not rest a little longer? Lucius adjusted his chair to a comfortable position. There's a guest, Tilda, she murmured, rubbing her drowsy eyes, radiating effortless sensuality. It's a bit inconvenient. Let's send Sirius back to the Black Estate sooner rather than later, Lucius suggested after a moment of thought. It won't be that quick. The Black Estate now belongs to the Ministry, Narcissa replied. Seeing no outsiders, she perched gracefully on Lucius' lap. Her long arms encircled his shoulders, lips slightly parted, awaiting his gentle attention. Lucius drew her close, holding her slender waist. Aurora, once you've eaten, you can go find Draco, he said, politely nudging me away as I stared at their intimate display. Seriously? Mom looks so stunning, what's wrong with me admiring her a bit longer? I muttered under my breath, thoughtfully closing the door behind them. Inside, muffled laughter and playful teasing drifted out, sending an irresistible shiver down my spine. Narcissa was right. Sirius' innocence could only be cleared through a public trial of Peter Pettigrew. Coordinating all the leading figures of Wizengamot would take time. Ironically, when former Department of Magical Law Enforcement head Bartemius Crouch had sent Sirius to Azkaban, no proper trial had taken place. This time, to prevent Peter Pettigrew from escaping again, Lucius had sealed his animagus ability. Hopefully, delayed justice wouldn't keep Sirius waiting too long. His face, rare as it was, now wore a joyful smile. Sirius quickly bonded with the two boys, regaining his extraordinary athletic talents, while his previously hindered magic gradually recovered. Until his innocence was officially recognized, he could not legally wield a wand. No matter, I don't need one for now, he said, refusing Lucius' offer and choosing a wand from the Malfoy ancestral collection instead. He didn't want to be separated from Harry or be an unnecessary presence at the Malfoy estate. Do you want to sneak into Hogwarts as a pet? Harry asked, astonished. Isn't that exactly what Peter Pettigrew did? Sirius replied with a hint of sarcasm. But won't that be too degrading for you? Sirius masked the disappointment in his eyes well. It was clear he wanted to hear Harry call him godfather, seeking acknowledgement of his role, but he was no longer the abused child he had once been in the Muggle world. Now, he was fully satisfied both mentally and materially. I've already missed your childhood. I don't want to miss the rest of our time together, Sirius said sincerely, his expression filled with honesty. However, when he saw Harry in his Slytherin uniform, his smile stiffened. Harry, you were sorted into Slytherin? Sirius's brow furrowed. But James and Lily were both Gryffindors. Slytherin's fine. Professor Snape has taken good care of me too. Severus Snape, Snivellus? Sirius completely lost control of his expression. Severus is head of Slytherin House and godfather to both of my children. Lucius's tone turned grave. And if you've managed to walk free from Azkaban this time, he played his part. Without him supplying Veritaserum, prying a confession from Pettigrew would not have been so easy. The world really has changed. Sirius slumped into a dining chair, dazed. If you want to accompany me to Hogwarts, Sirius, you'll first need Professor Snape's consent. His open disdain for Snape made all of us uneasy. Harry pressed on. Professor Snape is also my secret keeper now. Those words, secret keeper, brought a dangerous red sheen to Sirius's eyes. This is madness. How can Snivellus be your secret keeper? He's the one who told Voldemort about the prophecy. What prophecy? Harry asked. The prophecy that said a child born at the end of July would be his greatest enemy. It could have been you or Longbottom's boy. In the end, Voldemort chose you. And Snivellus, he never meant you any good. Harry, no Slytherin can be trusted, Sirius urged desperately. Let me be your guardian instead. Spend every holiday with me at Grimmauld Place, will you? Cousin, don't forget it was a Slytherin who saved you from Azkaban. I couldn't help but laugh in disbelief. Ungrateful didn't even begin to cover it. Though, to be fair, in the original story he had no problem inheriting the Black family estate, even as he spat curses at his mother's portrait. Born into privilege, cushioned by family wealth, he could squander his youth recklessly, knowing someone else would always clean up after him. Harry, to Slytherins, nothing matters but ambition and gain. Sirius's voice was low, pleading. Then maybe I'd rather make myself worth something, Harry said quietly, lifting his chin to meet his gaze. Sirius looked at him as though he were beyond saving. The awkward silence was broken when Snape appeared at the door. Godfather! Draco and I ran to greet him, one on each side. Here in Malfoy Manor, Sirius couldn't openly challenge him. He'll had to tread carefully if he wanted to repair things with Harry. First come, first served. Being late meant he'd have to work twice as hard. After offering Snape a stiff word of thanks, he withdrew to his room. No, Sirius wasn't stupid. He was clever. Harry was his last tether to the future. He couldn't afford to let Snivellus drive a wedge between them. And truth be told, Sirius had Slytherin blood in him too. His rebellion and defiance only served to bury it. For once, the sharp-tongued potions master was struck silent, forgetting even to sneer. Did the sun rise in the west, or did that mangy mutt lose his wits in Azkaban? I heard Snape mutter under his breath. Perhaps a bit of both, old friend, Lucius quipped smoothly. Tell me, would you mind if Harry brought a pet along to school? I was under the impression Harry already owned an owl named Hedwig. Snape's eyes narrowed. In a flash, he understood exactly what Lucius was suggesting. Of course he was complaining that the black dog's presence was blindingly intrusive. But what if, Lucius said softly, the pet belonged to the potions master himself? You mean to say you want me to bring that mangy mutt to Hogwarts? Lucius, I suspect your brain's been swapped with the trolls. Snape's face had gone, a dangerous shade of green. Severus, my dearest old friend, a disobedient dog can always be trained. Lucius gave him a look so laden with meaning that words became unnecessary. This was revenge, a long-awaited chance to settle the score with the Marauders. No need, Snape cut him off coldly. I've no interest in you and Narcissa's little games. Why do you have to tell Severus everything? Mother was furious. For the first time, she actually scolded father in front of another person. Sissy, I didn't say anything. Lucius bolted after her. Severus, I want no part of this. I bit the inside of my cheek, fighting hard not to laugh, trying to make myself invisible. I could guess when it all started. A young Draco, tear-stained, carrying props he'd found locked in the master bedroom wardrobe, begging his dear godfather to save his mother. Whips, shackles, collars, even a tail, all neatly collected. Poor, celibate old bachelor Severus Snape, forced to endure such a sight. He confiscated every single item with a thunderous expression and ordered Lucius to keep his personal belongings properly stored. I had to admit, the Malfoy household was far more colorful than outsiders could ever imagine. In the end, no one knew what Sirius had offered his nephew, but Draco got exactly what he wanted, a proud, imposing black dog as a pet. Our dormitory even sprouted an extra room of its own. Sirius's new quarters. How much did the Malfoys donate to Hogwarts? Even the worldly eldest son of the Black family was stunned by the privileges we enjoyed. Most of the time, Sirius roamed the castle in his animagus form. On the Marauder's map, I noticed he often lingered in one particular spot, likely the room of requirement. When we handed him the map and James's broom, this iron-willed prisoner who had endured 11 years of false imprisonment without complaint broke down, burying his face in his hands. Harry was crushed in his embrace, Sirius's arms clamped around him like iron bands, squeezing the breath from his lungs. In the old days of the Marauders, James and Sirius had always been the leading pair. Remus, burdened by his werewolf curse, played the obedient, self-effacing role, while Peter Pettigrew became everyone's punchline. Sirius and James looked down on him more than anyone. That contempt sowed the seed of betrayal that would one day bloom. Resentment builds, and sooner or later it breaks. Sirius had everything: family, looks, talent. A flawless warrior in every field, he had no way to understand the small, bitter heart of someone always left behind. He and James were close because they were cut from the same cloth. I had always thought Sirius's feelings for James went deeper than brotherhood. His years in Azkaban felt less like endurance and more like devotion unto death. Draco and I finally managed to pry Harry from Sirius's suffocating embrace. No wonder Slytherin never wanted him, Draco muttered under his breath. He's far too emotional. Aurora Draco, if I die, you'll cry for me like that too, won't you? Harry asked suddenly. What nonsense, don't jinx it. I smacked the back of his head. In the film, Draco had handed his wand to Harry in the final battle against Voldemort. For any wizard, a wand is dearer than life. That was proof enough of a bond forged through life and death, wasn't it? You're Sissy's daughter, how can you be so violent? Sirius, who only moments ago had been steeped in grief, instinctively pulled Harry behind him. Your mother was a gentle, beautiful woman. You look so much like her when she was young, but your temperament is the complete opposite. His eyes glimmered with memory. Suspicious. All this time, I'd assumed his tastes were like Dumbledore's. But the original books did mention Sirius's old bedroom at Grimmauld Place, walls plastered with posters stuck by permanent sticking charms, motorbikes, curvy blonde pin-ups. Of course, that could just have been a cover. After all, Mother was 5 years younger than him. He caught my curious stare and explained. When I was sorted into Gryffindor, my parents cut me off financially. I spent holidays at James's house, and during the school year I lived on help from my Uncle Alfred and from Sissy. Sirius went on. The heirs of the other pure-blood families kept their distance from me. But even though Sissy was adopted, her foster father Braxis spoiled her. Her allowance was even larger than Lucius's. Mother was adopted by the Malfoy family? You didn't know? Sirius blinked. Her maiden name was Malfoy. Later, to give her a proper marriage match, she was entered into the Black family register, but without rights to the Black inheritance. Only belatedly did Sirius realize, I wasn't supposed to say that, was I? When no one spoke, he added hesitantly, so Lucius and Sissy never told you. I might have slipped up. He looked like a child caught doing wrong. I had already guessed a little. I glanced at Draco. His expression held an odd flicker of guilt. So that was it. Draco had known. Only me kept in the dark. Why? Lucius and Narcissa couldn't not have known. Could it be they didn't approve of us? After all, I wasn't truly connected to the Malfoy line. I dared not follow that thought too far. Draco must have sensed my unease. Aurora, Mother and Father weren't trying to keep us apart. They just wanted you to have the choice yourself. They didn't want to put pressure on you. At last I understood what Abraxas meant when I was born, that Malfoys preferred to keep things in the family. Even if your final choice isn't me. His gaze dimmed. Draco, you said it yourself, this choice belongs to me, so your assumption doesn't stand. Aurora. He pulled me into a fierce embrace, joy flooding his voice. I never promised you anything. I know, you wicked little liar, but I'll wait for you, until the day you choose to give me that promise. His gray eyes glowed with devotion. Godfather, is this really a pure blood tradition? For the first time, Harry acknowledged Sirius as such. The man almost burst out laughing, but Harry's solemn face made him temper his tone. It's true. My mother was a Black before marriage. She wed my father, Orion, her own cousin. Family most obsessed with inbreeding was the Gaunts, heirs of Slytherin, and because of that, their line died out. To my knowledge, the Malfoys, those staunch purebloods, always took special measures to avoid sharing the Gaunts' fate. Like what? Harry pressed, impatient for answers. To prevent the Malfoy bloodline from weakening or becoming unstable like the Gaunt family, if you look closely, you'll notice that there are quite a few half-blood wizards in their family tree. Half-blood, Harry echoed, a flicker of strange excitement lighting up his eyes. Are you fitting in at Slytherin? I've heard they discriminate against half-blood wizards, Sirius asked, concerned. Our godfather, the current head of Slytherin, is a half-blood. Who would dare discriminate against Harry? And don't forget, he's under our protection, Draco said proudly. That's true. Sirius' eyes held a mixture of relief and sorrow. Stop calling Professor Snape snot nose, all right, Harry said to his godfather, unusually firm and insistent. Without Professor Snape saving me from a miserable life, I might still be stuck in Aunt Petunia's kitchen, scraping by under my cousin's constant bullying. How could those despicable muggles treat you like that? I added fuel to the fire. When Harry first came to my house, he was skinnier than you, uncle, and shorter than both Draco and me. Draco chimed in, there wasn't a square inch of healthy flesh on him. Thanks to Mom and our godfather carefully managing his care, consulting with St. Mungo's specialists, they finally cleared up all those old ailments. I was so immersed in my own world, I didn't know any of this. The article Prince or Refugee by Rita Coster had spread widely, and Azkaban Beyond the Dementors was under the Ministry's strict supervision. It seemed that someone deliberately controlled the flow of information. Who else could have done it besides Dumbledore, isolating anyone who might care for Harry, turning him into a solitary island? The result: Harry was tamed, molded into the most obedient member of the Order of the Phoenix. Give him some sustenance and he'd wag his tail frantically, risking his life for Dumbledore's cause, sacrificing himself to maintain the so-called peace of the wizarding world. In the original story, Voldemort had been reduced to mere fragments clinging to life, but who time and again relentlessly hunted him to extinction, who lured prodigies into corruption, placed books on creating Horcruxes openly in the library, and praised the dangers therein. The wolf in human skin, that's the truly dangerous one. Sirius wasn't stupid, just blinded by his own extremes. Calming down, he said, seeing you all safe is already enough for me. You three make good use of it, he said, pointing to the Marauders map. Every time we use it, it helps us avoid Filch and Mrs. Norris. The idea for the Marauders map came from Sissy. Sirius' expression softened. The study in Malfoy Manor overlooks every room, tracking everyone's movements. Oh my, so when Draco and I explored the secret chambers of Malfoy Manor, Mom and Dad knew the whole time. No wonder they always caught us instantly. Haha, it seems Sissy and Lucius have kept quite a few secrets from you. Sirius laughed heartily, and at that moment, I suddenly felt him rejuvenated. He looked like that confident, talented, handsome young man from the photos. Uncle, Hogwarts has changed drastically since you enrolled. The teaching staff now is much worse. Yes, hiring Snape, I mean, it's outrageous. Sirius' voice lowered further under Harry's sharp gaze. Well done. Chapter 145. If I had known then. At last, Sirius had learned to show Snape a measure of respect. In truth, the original Marauders all seemed cut from the same cloth, men who enjoyed benefits, but rarely repaid debts. Take Remus Lupin, for instance. Each month when the full moon rose, he was able to keep his mind only because of the Wolfsbane potion formulated and refined by Snape himself. Yet Lupin never showed the slightest trace of gratitude. During defense against the dark arts, students were required to face their deepest fears. A boggart could peer into your heart and take the shape of what terrified you most. When Lupin learned that Neville's greatest fear was Snape, he deliberately coached the boy to imagine him in something ridiculous. And so, in front of the entire class, there appeared a Snape dressed in the hat and shawl of Neville's grandmother. It was open mockery of the head of Slytherin house, a deliberate trampling of the pride Slytherins guarded most fiercely. This was Lupin's idea of repayment. No thanks. Sirius no longer dared to belittle Snape in front of Harry. Instead, he picked up the earlier thread of conversation. So, when you mentioned the teaching standards at Hogwarts, what did you mean? Why, defense against the dark arts, of course. Professor Quirrell. There's a legend, Sirius frowned, that Voldemort cursed the post after he was denied it. Since then, no one has lasted more than a year. Quirrell, I'll be keeping a close eye on him, Sirius said gravely. In that moment, I saw him in a new light. When speaking with us, he treated us as equals. He listened seriously to our thoughts, never lecturing from on high. I'm stepping out for a while. Save me a plate. With that, he ruffled Draco's carefully styled hair into a mess. Infuriating, Draco seethed. Sirius truly did know exactly how to provoke a Malfoy. The next morning, Harry's Aunt Petunia Dursley and her family made the papers. To preserve the blood protection, Harry had to spend a few weeks each year at number 4, Privet Drive. And those weeks were always the hardest of his life, humiliating and unbearably cruel. Lucius and Narcissa, following their principle of spend money to smooth things over, paid a generous boarding fee for Harry every year. The Dursleys were raking it in, their pockets lined and their attitudes suddenly much more hospitable. But really, repaying evil with kindness, that was far too un-Malfoy. To let Harry's tormentors profit year after year, it was intolerable. That was when Sirius struck. In his animagus form, he spent days on end chasing Dudley's backside, snapping at his heels. He even rallied his canine friends to wreak havoc in the Dursleys' garden, leaving droppings everywhere. Every outing, the family was cornered and chased by a pack of dogs. Every return home, they found their house reeking with filth. The neighbors, who once turned a blind eye to Harry's suffering, suddenly felt their own comfort threatened. This time, they raised their voices in protest, demanding the Dursleys move out. Forced to relocate again and again under Sirius's relentless torment, their lives unraveled. Vernon Dursley, stinking perpetually of dog dung, could no longer meet clients without disastrous consequences for his sales. Dudley, shunted from one school to another, lost the chance to establish his dominance. The once notorious bully grew quieter, spared from trouble, misfortune turning, in a way, into fortune. Truly, the highest level of warfare often takes the simplest form. The wicked always meet their match, and in this case, their match had sharp teeth. At last, the Dursleys realized the truth. With Harry unreachable, they had no choice but to seek Dumbledore's help. The so-called champion of justice, the venerable White Wizard, did not side with Muggles this time. He read Petunia's letter once, then cast it into the fire. "If only you'd thought of this sooner," he murmured. Chapter 146, A Different Approach. Harry, your godfather really gave them what they deserved. Photographs of the Dursleys fleeing in disgrace had already made their rounds. The boy's lips curled into a faint smile. Since the passing of the International Statute of Secrecy, wizards had been forbidden to reveal themselves before Muggles. Harry's misery in the Muggle world had stirred sympathy throughout the wizarding community, but bound by law, they had been powerless to intervene. Now, with Sirius paving the way, ideas began to blossom. It was hard to help in times of need, but to kick the fallen, that was easy. The Dursleys quickly became a testing ground for wizards' endless pranks and tricks. Harry, meanwhile, needed only to stand aside and watch. Without lifting a finger, events unfolded just as he wished. As the Dursleys teetered on the brink of collapse, Lucius secured a feature in the Daily Prophet, a special interview with Harry. Rita Skeeter, clearly working under instructions, posed questions that were soft rather than biting. "Mr. Potter, it's said that many in the wizarding world are rallying to your side. How do you feel about this?" "First of all, I'm grateful for the support and concern everyone has shown me. I'm doing very well thanks to the care of the Malfoy family. And I'd also like to thank all my teachers and friends who have helped me along the way. As for the Muggles I once lived with, they are, after all, my mother's only living relatives. I hope people won't disturb their lives further." "Are you saying, then, that everyone's attempts to defend you were unnecessary?" Rita's quill twitched in excitement, as though she had struck gold. "No, that's not it," Harry replied. But the statute of secrecy makes it clear our world must remain hidden from muggles. I don't want those who have helped me to suffer for it. All these years, the pain has slowly faded. Perhaps everything I went through in childhood was a necessary part of my growth. Happiness is much the same for everyone, but misfortune each person's is different. Though they call me the chosen one, I cannot control my fate. Whenever I grow restless or impatient, I remind myself of what I've endured. His expression was calm, his gaze unwavering. That moment, captured forever in a photograph, went on to inspire countless young wizards lost in confusion. No one expected the publicity to strike such a chord. Harry hadn't played the victim, yet somehow drew out even more sympathy from his legion of motherly fans. The result? Life for the Dursleys only grew worse. Uncle Vernon, slipping again and again to the bottom of the company rankings, lost his manager's post and was demoted to a regular worker. The underling he had bullied most ruthlessly took his place and wasted no time in getting revenge. Vernon was saddled with the worst clients, the toughest sales territory. But having grown used to barking orders, how could he possibly stomach grunt work? Day after day, he came home red in the face, neck bulging with rage, only to unload on Petunia. If I hadn't married such a jinx, my life wouldn't be this miserable. And how many times have I told you stop mistreating Potter? He may be small, but he remembers everything. And so it went, endless mutual blame. Dad, Mum, Dudley shrieked, clutching his nose. At last, the gluttonous little piglet had learned caution. After being tricked too many times, he no longer dared eat anything offered to him. But the pig snout on his face and the tail sprouting from his backside, those were another matter entirely. Chapter 147, Lured into the Trap. So that's what happened. The sweets had been swapped. With no way out, the three finally swallowed their pride and asked Dumbledore for a meeting, hoping to mend their relationship with Harry. Once so proud and overbearing, Petunia and Vernon now crept nervously into the Malfoy Manor drawing room. Surrounded by guilt and grandeur, they felt shabby and out of place, terrified of soiling the lavish antique carpets. To support Harry, Draco and I took the day off too with Snape's curt approval. The potions master merely scratched out a line on the schedule, face expressionless, and joined us. Lucius and Narcissa never appeared. Instead, they sent a house elf to receive the Dursleys. To them, the visitors simply weren't worthy of Malfoy hospitality. Monster, Dudley squealed, hiding behind Petunia's skirts, though his bulk was so great his enormous backside stuck out. Sirius, of course, wouldn't miss such a historic scene. In animagus form, his sleek black coat shone like polished jet, his jaws full of gleaming fangs. Vernon stammered in terror at the sight. Mr. Dumbledore, could you put away your dog? Our family's terribly afraid of them. He forced out a toadying smile. Sorry, that dog isn't mine. Dumbledore this time chose to play the patient bystander. By the time Sirius crossed the gallery and entered the room, he had already shifted back to human form. It had been months since I'd last seen him, and the sight explained at once why he had reigned as Hogwarts' unrivaled heartthrob. Towering at 6'3", built like a Hollywood star with a perfect V-shaped torso, a flawless face with not a single weak angle, hair falling in soft waves to shadow his eyes, and every gesture steeped in aristocratic elegance. His clothes were sharp, modern, effortlessly stylish. The Dursleys forgot their fear entirely. They just gawked wide-eyed, unable to look away. Sirius' eyes were filled with contempt for the Dursleys. I hear you've come to make amends? Yes. They scrambled to carry in their bundles and packages. This is a gift for little Harry. Vernon nervously rubbed his hands together, forcing a smile that barely twitched his facial muscles. It was the latest model toy car, the kind Harry had only seen in Dudley's room when he was little. He still remembered how Dudley had accused him of breaking one, and Vernon's huge, fan-like hand had left him bruised and bleeding. The car was red like blood. As you can see, my adoptive family is extremely wealthy. I have never lacked for anything, Harry said matter-of-factly. The Dursleys stiffened, glancing around the room. They knew he was telling the truth. What must we do to end this? Petunia asked, despair etched across her face. End it? You think this is the worst? This is just the beginning. You've endured 1 month. I endured 5 years, he said, stepping closer to the three huddled together. He was only 11, yet carried an astonishing presence. If apologies worked, why would we need the police? His voice was quiet but cutting, striking like thunder, embedding itself in their hearts. You really have guts, showing up alone in unfamiliar territory. And you've been quite useful to me, Harry whispered in Petunia's ear. Then he turned to Dumbledore with a dazzling smile. Headmaster, my aunt and her family are prepared to stay long term at Malfoy Manor. In a voice only Petunia could hear, he continued, you know, Malfoy Manor is enormous, and the secret chambers below were once used to hold prisoners. Petunia fainted on the spot. Harry, I must remind you, imprisoning muggles is illegal. Dumbledore's gaze was piercing. Harry's voice was so quiet that only he could hear. Professor, you know I wouldn't do that. Besides, I doubt my cousin and her husband would allow it. They'd complain about muggles dirtying their basement. This meeting itself only happened after Dad agreed to let them in, Draco said, a hint of disdain in his tone. Vernon, holding Petunia, frantically pinched her philtrum in panic. At that moment, every wizard present who despised him was looking on in contempt. His past misdeeds had finally backfired. Seeing his wife unconscious, he finally snapped. I'll fight you all. I was the closest to him and the only girl present. Naturally, he assumed I was the weakest link. Chaos! Obstacles everywhere. Spells flew from all directions. Vernon was sent flying, smashing against a wall. Careful! That filthy muggle almost touched me. A Malfoy ancestor's portrait muttered in alarm. Professor Dumbledore, could you cast a memory charm to erase Harry's memories before age 5? This nightmare would haunt him for life. Aurora, no need, Harry said, stepping forward to hold me. When Vernon attacked you, I actually felt the urge to cast Avada Kedavra on him. I'd rather it be them who forget this entire episode, he said, gesturing toward Petunia and Vernon sprawled on the floor. Dudley slumped to the ground, utterly defeated. He peed on the custom-made carpet. Harry, the Malfoy Manor has suffered heavy losses because of you, Draco snapped, misplacing his anger. Sorry, I'll pay for it in full, Harry replied with a crooked grin. Humpish, let Dobby clean it up first, then we'll talk. Draco hard-mouthed, soft-hearted as ever. Harry, erasing their memories of magic and of you, it doesn't cost them anything, but you, I trailed off. The only use they've ever had for me, Harry said quietly, was keeping me for a few weeks each year. We'll get on just fine as strangers. Their fear of me or their fawning it only drags me back to everything before I was 5. Child, Dumbledore's eyes grew complicated, touched in a way he rarely showed. Would you do this for me? Harry asked carefully. Obliviate was no dark spell. Dumbledore didn't hesitate for long. The Dursleys were sent away in secret. They would never again have ties to the wizarding world. Even their correspondence with Dumbledore was destroyed. That golden-haired girl who had once envied her sister's Hogwarts letter was now gone forever, swallowed by the flood of memories of oblivion. Harry, you still have us. He gazed out the window into the distance, his thoughts unreadable. Strictly speaking, by Narcissa's side of the family, Harry was Draco's and my cousin our uncle in name only. Appear to Sirius. Among pure blood families, relations always overlapped. Without his mother's kin, he could still thrive with his father's. Don't worry about me, I'm fine. He took my hand and pulled me to sit beside him. This time, I want to take control of my own fate. Aurora, will you be my witness? Chapter 149, Looking at a Future Daughter-in-Law. We'll both be your witnesses. Draco stepped forward, placing his hand over mine and Harry's joined hands. Sirius and Dumbledore exchanged warm smiles nearby. Enough of this sentiment. Back with me, you've still got evening study to catch. Snape sneered at the emotional scene, swept his robes and stalked off. We hurried after him. Sirius, a word, came Dumbledore's voice. Merlin knew what that old fox was plotting again. Was he planning to requisition Grimmauld Place for the Order of the Phoenix this time? For Sirius to clear his name, Peter Pettigrew's case had to be publicly tried. But it had been Dumbledore who vouched for him, spiriting him away in secret. The tracking charm on Sirius had been Dumbledore's work too. Even his public confrontation with Muggles on Harry's behalf had been allowed with Dumbledore's tacit consent. Snape and Sirius, sworn enemies, two blades poised to clash, maintained a strange kind of truce. Their goals were the same, Harry's safety. And yet, Sirius's words had left a mark on Harry. In class, his attention wandered. He would stare at Snape, only to look away hurriedly when their eyes met. "Harry, this is the second potion you've ruined." I stepped up beside him, exercising my duties as assistant, and with a sweep of my wand cleared his cauldron to shining. "Sorry." He lowered his head and rubbed at his eyes. Snape seemed to notice too, but instead of approaching, he kept his distance. Draco leaned in with a smirk. "Careful, Harry, you're about to steal Longbottom's title as potions class's #1 cauldron killer." "Stop it." I pinched him lightly. Harry just didn't perform well this time. "Oh, come off it. Making rookie mistakes one after another? You're just covering for him," Draco muttered under his breath. Why did it suddenly feel like parents bickering over their child? My cheeks burned and my heartbeat quickened. Being so close to Draco, he noticed my reaction almost instantly. "What's going through that head of yours?" "We're still in class." His lips curved into a smug smile. "Quit it." We had lingered too long by Harry's desk, and Snape finally strode over. "Mr. Potter, if you intend to keep dawdling, I don't mind giving you detention." His cold gaze swept down over Harry, then landed on us. "That goes for you two as well." "Seriously? Dragging us into it too?" But Snape was only posturing. He'd left himself an out. As long as Harry finished before class ended, the punishment wouldn't stick. "Hibbish, biased old bat," I heard Ron mutter behind us. Neville, seated nearby, didn't respond. Wearing protective gloves, he quietly followed the instructions for the experiment. Ever since I'd helped him uncover his unique talent, Neville had grown much closer to the Malfoy family. To Madame Longbottom, Neville was her only lifeline. Losing her son and daughter-in-law had already been a devastating blow. She had once assumed Neville would amount to nothing, but reality had proven otherwise, filling her with unexpected joy. She even came in person to Malfoy Manor, bringing Neville along to thank us. If not for Neville, our families might never have spoken again. After all, Neville's parents had been driven insane by Bellatrix, and Bellatrix was, on paper, Aunt Narcissa's elder sister. That Madame Longbottom was willing to set aside the past was something Lucius welcomed wholeheartedly. Being of old pure blood stock themselves, they had endless common ground, and their talk flowed smoothly. At one point, Lucius remarked, "Parents plan long and far for the sake of their children. All the Malfoy wealth, built over generations, is meant for my two. You should also consider Neville's future." It was an open secret that Madame Longbottom had donated most of her fortune to the Order of the Phoenix. By the time Neville came of age, Longbottom Manor would likely be a hollow shell. Her expression tightened. She looked ready to argue, then sighed instead. "You're right. We must look forward, not back." Her eyes shifted to me. "Neville says it was you who discovered his gift?" She studied me from head to toe, her gaze growing more approving with each moment. Why did it suddenly feel like she was evaluating me as a future granddaughter-in-law? Chapter 150. The Women of the Malfoy Family. "Yes, Madame Longbottom." I stepped forward and offered my greeting. "Miss Malfoy, you're truly lovely." She removed a brooch and pinned it onto me. It bore the Longbottom crest. Everyone knew what it meant, among pure blood families, to exchange such emblems. "This is far too precious." I looked to Narcissa for help. Neville was kind and steadfast, yes, but I had to admit, I was shallow when it came to appearances. His looks were not exactly in line with my preferences in a partner. "Mrs. Longbottom, my sister's a bit scatterbrained at times. Best let me, as her elder brother, keep the brooch safe for her." Draco accepted it, wrapping it carefully in soft velvet. "Yes, Aurora's absent-minded by nature. Draco's always been the one looking after her," Narcissa added with a deliberate note in her voice. "Aurora's not absent-minded at all. She came first in every subject at midterms," Neville blurted out, his tone full of admiration. "Oh, Aurora's in Slytherin. However did you find out her marks?" Mrs. Longbottom teased knowingly. I just heard it from her, Hermione." Neville's round cheeks flushed scarlet. "I had no idea my daughter was so accomplished." Narcissa sounded pleasantly surprised. "She's never once mentioned it in her letters." "Ugh, such a humble brag." When elders gather, their favorite pastime is always showing off their children. Many subjects, Draco and I tied for first place, I hurried to explain. "Silly girl, do you think I'd ever be jealous?" "I couldn't be prouder of you," Draco whispered with a smile curling at his lips. His hand slipped behind me, fingers lacing tightly with mine. Lucius tilted his chin, a platinum peacock poised to fan its tail, pride radiating from every pore. Aurora and Draco have trained under family trials since childhood. Such results are only to be expected. Oh please, the most puffed up of all is clearly you. Draco and I pressed our lips together, dutifully nodding in agreement. Aurora, from the first moment I laid eyes on you, I knew you were a clever, kind young lady. As for Neville. In Mrs. Longbottom's firm gaze flickered a fleeting glimmer of sorrow. I placed a memory charm on him when he was small, and it damaged his memory permanently. He's always a step behind. That you've not shunned him, not bullied him, I'm already deeply grateful. But in the original story, wasn't Draco forever picking on Neville? Aurora's never bullied me, Neville said with quiet conviction, his eyes meeting his grandmother's. Was he defending me? I know. Mrs. Longbottom's look softened with affection. May I ask you, Aurora, to watch over him a little at Hogwarts, even if you're not in the same house? He tells me most Gryffindor and Slytherin classes are shared. Mrs. Longbottom girls are meant to be protected. How could you ask Aurora to guard a perfectly healthy boy? Harry, who had been quiet all along, suddenly spoke up. Girls are like flowers, they must be carefully nurtured to bloom beautifully, Lucius agreed, his gaze drifting with pride to his own cherished flower, Narcissa. I see my mistake now, Mrs. Longbottom relented. No wonder the women of the Malfoy family radiate such happiness. The secret lies there. Chapter 151, A Princess and Two Loyal Knights. Neville sat there, glancing back and forth between his grandmother and me, baffled by the twists of the conversation. Mrs. Longbottom's original intent to exchange family crests had been neatly brushed aside, never to be mentioned again. That night, Draco held me close, Longbottom's dreaming far above his station. Perhaps it was only Mrs. Longbottom's idea. Then she ought to look in a mirror. How could her precious grandson ever be worthy of you? Draco's tongue was as sharp as ever. Don't say that. I silenced him with a kiss. What's the matter? You're worried about that fool? His eyes narrowed dangerously. No, I'm just afraid you might say it out loud by accident. I hurriedly defended myself. He opened the velvet trap brooch and held it in his hand. The Lombardons may have a fancy name, but the family's wealth has long been drained by the Order of the Phoenix and the Ministry. My father would never make a loss-leader deal like this. He was about to toss the brooch to the floor, but paused. Thinking better of it, he said, better keep it for now, I'll return it later when there's a chance. Neville's much easier to trick than his grandmother. Aurora, the Malfoy name will follow you for life, he said with mock ferocity. As long as I'm around, no one else will dare put their name before it. Surprisingly, I felt no resistance in my heart. Do you mean I'm not supposed to marry anyone? I teased him. Don't play dumb, you know what I mean, Aurora. He kissed the tips of my fingers. Go to sleep. Sirius, for his part, had no further assignments from Dumbledore and had not returned to Hogwarts. On the Marauders map, aside from Crumb patrolling the fourth floor corridor, there were no other anomalies. Who in the world could resist the lure of immortality? Yet, knowing the story, I understood that only those without desire for the Philosopher's Stone could obtain it. I, however, had long desired it, ever since Draco's elven bloodline awakened. I wanted to be the one who could always stay by his side. Years from now, when I am frail and struggling, while he retains his youthful handsome appearance, how would I endure that? If you cannot have something, you must stop coveting it. Otherwise, how are you different from a power-obsessed Voldemort? The key for a person is mastering their desires. We are not impulsive Gryffindors, we will not recklessly act to protect the stone. Dumbledore's layers of defense were less about guarding the stone, and more about testing the chosen one. Why should we blindly follow his design? Aurora, Professor Quirrell wants to see you in the Defense Against the Dark Arts office. A senior Slytherin came over to relay the message. What does he want? Draco grabbed my wrist. I'll go with you. I'll come too, Harry added. The more, the better our odds. In the original story, it was Harry's touch that finally destroyed the fragment of Voldemort possessing Quirrell. He is our secret weapon known only to me. Princess and your two loyal knights. Quirrell's aura shifted instantly, and his stammering appeared completely gone. Was he preparing to reveal everything? The door to the Defense Against the Dark Arts classroom suddenly swung shut with a sharp click. No wind, no magic, just closed on its own. I jumped at the sound. Draco drew his wand, placing me behind him protectively. "What does this mean?" "Don't worry. I knew as soon as I called for Miss Malfoy, the three of you would come." He settled comfortably on the sofa. And before us was the mirror of Erised. No three-headed dog guarding it, no devil's snare, no flying keys or wizard chess. Had Dumbledore simply not gotten around to setting up the protections yet? He caught me completely off guard. "I found this little treasure up on the fourth floor corridor. Miss Malfoy, you don't seem the least bit curious?" He studied me leisurely, as though he had all the time in the world. "You look so much like someone I once knew. Aside from the color of your hair and eyes, you're almost identical." The moment he first saw you, he felt a strange familiarity. "What is that supposed to mean?" "So you truly know nothing of this?" I kept my face blank, bewildered, and he seemed to have expected just that. A shadow of loneliness crossed his expression before his features settled back into cold neutrality. "The reason I called you here today," he said at last, "is because I want you to do me a favor. Contact your father. Ask him to come to Hogwarts." "A parent call?" "Professor Quirrell, what has Aurora done?" "Our father is very busy," Draco said, puzzled. For the briefest moment, a murderous glint flashed in the man's eyes. He swallowed his impatience and replied, "I have important matters to discuss with him." Draco, too, sensed the wrongness about Quirrell. "Professor Snape is our godfather. He can stand in for our father if needed." "Malfoy brats," I said now. "Get your father here." His sudden roar exploded like a curse, veins bulging, his whole body shaking with frenzy. Harry gave a muffled groan, clutching his scar in agony. "You're not Professor Quirrell. Who are you really?" My hand trembled around my wand. To stare down the final boss of Harry Potter and pretend calm? Impossible. "Forgive me," I lost my composure. His face shifted as smoothly as if he were turning a page. "Open the door, let us out." By now, there was no chance we would believe a single word of his. If he called Lucius here, he might well reveal his true identity, then force father into submission with the dark mark. I would never let that happen. "Brave of you, pointing your wand at a professor," he said with practiced smoothness. "My master has always been very interested in you." He stepped closer, studying my face intently. "You're almost the spitting image of what he looked like as a child." "I look like Voldemort?" "Yes, because I resemble Narcissa so strongly." Narcissa was shaped by magic itself. Voldemort's blood ran in her veins. That was why Lucius made her wear those bewitched earrings, doubled with Confundus charms to conceal her true appearance. Her beauty was too much like Voldemort's, and in her time when his power was at its height, anyone would have seen it instantly, that the Malfoys had secretly carried on his line. But by the time I was born, Voldemort's reign had ended. "Don't touch Aurora," Draco slapped his hand away. "Playing the hero, are we?" His smile curled into a sneer. "Didn't Abu ever tell you? You act only after you plan." He called Abraxas Abu. Voldemort had already taken full control of Quirrell's body. Chapter 153, A Lifetime of Worry. "You still look more like Lucius," the man murmured, his eyes full of nostalgia. Draco stood rigid, watching him warily, keeping me shielded behind him. "Before coming here, we'd already notified Professor Snape. If we didn't emerge within half an hour, he would break down Quirrell's door. All we had to do now was drag this out as long as possible and wait for rescue." "Relax. You two aren't my goal today." He gave Draco's cheek a mocking pat. Draco's face twisted with humiliation. "Harry Potter," Quirrell drawled, dragging out every syllable. "The savior who defeated the Dark Lord, all grown up now." With a flick, he disarmed Harry, twirling the boy's wand in his hand as though it were a toy. "Nothing special at all. Dumbledore really has gone blind with age." He yanked the velvet cloth from the mirror of Erised. Harry's pupils widened instantly. One by one, we all felt ourselves pulled into the vision within the glass. First, Harry's parents alive, smiling, a family reunited. Then, the image shifted, Harry being elected Minister for Magic, the crowd cheering his name. And at last, he stood with his bride, exchanging a kiss so deep it spoke of a lifetime. When they traded rings, the girl's eyes brimmed with light, full of hope and joy for the future. Gray eyes warm, devoted, whispering a trembling "I do." Harry's fingertips shook. His emerald eyes widened in disbelief, terrified that if he so much as breathed, the vision would shatter into dust. Then weight pressed into his palm. The ring had become a glowing red stone. It burned with heat, thrumming faintly like something alive. Harry clenched it tight, but he wasn't fast enough. Quirrell noticed. "Potter, hand it over." His fingers spread wide, voice dripping with hunger. "It belongs to Hogwarts. I'll give it straight to Professor Dumbledore," Harry said firmly. "You dare defy me?" They were close, too close. Quirrell's hand lashed out, striking Harry's cheek with a vicious crack. "What are you doing?" I threw myself in front of Harry. But before I could finish, Quirrell let out a piercing scream. The moment his skin brushed Harry's, his fingers disintegrated into powder. In seconds, his entire body began to collapse. The doors burst open. Snape stormed in, panting hard. He froze, watching the grotesque sight unfold with his own eyes. He swept Harry into his arms, shielding the boy's gaze. "Aurora, don't look." Draco was trembling so badly his knees gave out. He collapsed against me. With shaking hands, he grabbed my face and forced me to turn away. "Don't look, you'll have nightmares." My own hands wouldn't stop shaking, my wand nearly slipping to the floor. My vision blurred as hot tears spilled unchecked down my cheeks. "It's over, but don't you ever rush forward like that again. You'll scare me to death, do you understand?" Draco's voice cracked with fury, but it was raw, real. So this was what it meant to stand with the so-called Chosen One. The Savior's battles weren't glorious, they were a gamble between life and death. I had only dared because I knew my immunity to spells gave me a buffer. Because I knew Voldemort couldn't touch Harry without pain. But in the nights that followed, I woke screaming more than once. Poor Draco had to endure every single episode. "I'm sorry, I won't ever do it again." The guilt of making him worry tore at me. "You," he gave a shaky laugh, brushing at my tears. "You'll just keep me worrying for the rest of my life, won't you?" Harry was, as expected, summoned by Dumbledore, and it was nearly midnight before he was released. "Aurora, the thing you gave Harry, that was the Philosopher's Stone, the one that grants immortality?" In the dark, I leaned against Draco, the two of us folded into each other. The reflection wasn't me, it was what Harry imagined. That was me as he fantasized I'd look when I grew older, platinum hair, gray eyes. I couldn't defend myself. I knew he was up to no good. Draco snapped. "You've got plenty of rivals, Draco," I teased on purpose. "That only proves I have excellent taste." He held me tighter. "And besides, the only way he'll ever have you is through a fantasy in the Mirror of Erised." He twirled strands of my hair around his long fingers. "Do you think he knows we fall asleep in each other's arms every night?" "I don't know." Draco gave a soft laugh. "Aurora, don't give people false hope. It's not fair to Harry either." "Of course." I curled closer into him, finding the most comfortable spot. I'd long since grown used to the faint herbal fragrance that clung to him. By morning, we met again at the Slytherin table. "Harry, you mean to say you advised Dumbledore to destroy the stone?" Draco's brow furrowed. "Yes, the temptation of eternal life is too great. Keeping it only invites endless trouble." Exactly the same answer as in the original story. I knew what Draco was thinking. He wanted the stone to extend my life. But Dumbledore would never surrender it. Asking Harry's opinion was nothing more than a fox testing the waters. I slipped my arm through Draco's and whispered in his ear, "It's all right. There will be other chances." "You, always so optimistic." Draco sighed. He knew as well as I did Harry was never going to keep the stone. It had only ever been bait to lure Quirrell. "Did Dumbledore tell you why Quirrell turned to dust? Was he really a vampire?" Draco perked up, intrigued. It was common knowledge that vampires feared sunlight, but no one had ever heard of one recoiling from human touch. Harry lowered his voice. "Professor Dumbledore said Quirrell was possessed by Voldemort." Draco inhaled sharply. All his strange behavior, drinking unicorn blood, scheming to steal the stone, it was all to prolong his life. "But isn't he dead already?" Draco gripped my hand unconsciously, too tightly. If Voldemort rose again, would he come after the family that once betrayed him? He was never truly dead. For all these years, he's been lurking in the shadows, waiting for his chance, and during one of Quirrell's travels, Voldemort's honeyed words ensnared him, made him his servant. Harry wrapped his hands around a mug of hot cocoa, as though borrowing its warmth for strength. "My mother left me a protection bound by blood. Until I come of age, he can't touch me, can't harm me. That's the only reason I survived. He glanced at Draco and me, guilt clouding his green eyes. It's me. I nearly dragged you both down with me. I'm no savior, only a cursed jinx. Dumbledore told me Voldemort despises betrayal more than anything, and once he returns, the Malfoy family who sheltered me will be the very first to suffer his wrath. Chapter 155. Another House Cup Victory. Chapter 156. A regular guest at Malfoy Manor. At platform 9 and 3/4, Lucius and Narcissa's platinum hair gleamed so brightly it turned heads everywhere. Father! Mother! The moment the train pulled in, I left my luggage to the two gentlemen and darted down onto the platform. Like a swallow diving straight for its nest, I threw myself into Narcissa's arms. Mum, I missed you so much. I hadn't even realized how thick and nasal my voice sounded. Aurora, my precious girl, let me see, have you gotten thinner? She cupped my face and kissed me again and again, until Lucius finally lost patience. Aurora, stop clinging to your mother like a koala. Get down, you'll ruin her back. Lucius pried me off Narcissa and set me firmly on the ground. Father, if her back's bad, it's only because of you. Lucius shot me a warning glance. You and Draco and your little stunts, we'll deal with you once we're home. I shrank my neck into my shoulders and looked desperately at Narcissa for help. This time, she didn't take my side. She crouched to hold me close and said softly, Aurora, Luke and I listened to Severus recount what you two went through. We lost several nights of sleep over it. Your father is so worried, that's why his anger comes out this way. Father, I'm sorry. The image of them sitting in Malfoy Manor, sick with worry over us, made guilt surge hot in my chest. Lucius had a house elf take Draco's luggage, and he turned to Harry with warm questions about life at Hogwarts, as if the scolding moments ago had never even happened. Aurora, what's wrong? Draco noticed my eyes had gone red and quickly asked. Draco, take Aurora to the car, Narcissa instructed. Looks like I won't escape a round of family discipline later. I buried my head against the boy's shoulder. This time even Mother's softness won't save you. Don't worry, I'll be with you. His voice was gentle, his arm pulling me closer. You two, could you at least tone it down a little? Sirius's voice cut in. The Malfoy family had their own driver, and once the masters were inside, the car's privacy wards sealed automatically. Cousin, we both cried. Surprised to see me, Sirius grinned wide, teeth flashing, laughter bubbling out of him. He looked every inch himself again, full of life and energy. Catching me staring, his face turned sheepish. Sissy can't stand the sight of me looking like some half-dead tramp. She stuffs me full of potions every day and lines the place with bottles and jars. But his eyes softened, brimming with fondness. Now that you're back, maybe she'll finally turn her attention elsewhere. No wonder Lucius had been in such a foul mood. This was the real problem, an extra lodger at home, not fewer. And to make matters worse, Sirius's looks were annoyingly striking. Lucius has been pushing things along nicely. The Wisengamot trial will be convened soon, Sirius told us with obvious excitement, and the keys to Black Manor are already in my possession. Draco and I exchanged a glance, instantly catching Lucius's unspoken expectations. Cousin, Black Manor has been shut up for years. Won't it be filled with dust? Is it even livable? There should still be a house elf left behind by Mother Creature. He'll have been keeping it. Sirius waved it off like it was nothing. Life at Malfoy Manor is wonderful, but Sissy insists that as former Blacks, we ought to look out for each other. I can stay as long as I like. His expression was pure delight. Father, I silently shed a tear of sympathy for you. There really are people who take politeness at face value. Chapter 157. Lucius's Proposal. After Harry boarded the carriage, Sirius launched straight back into his chatter. I stole a glance at Lucius. His expression betrayed nothing, but I could feel a knot tightening in my chest. The same unease seeped into Draco at my side. Beneath our school robes, our fingers laced together, holding tight for strength. Narcissa cast me a sympathetic look that screamed, "You're on your own now." My heart sank lower still. Our reckoning had come. Draco, Aurora, wait for me in the study. Leaving only that, Lucius led Narcissa back toward their chambers. What do we do? Father really seemed furious this time. Though Lucius's manner had always been strict, he had indulged us as well, trying his utmost to give us the warm childhood he himself had been denied. I'd heard from Narcissa that Abraxas had been merciless to Lucius as a boy, thrashing him often. His back, she said, had never been without scars. And yet he had never treated Draco or me that way. Could it be that our happy upbringing had reached its end? Draco stayed silent, face pale as parchment. His fear mirrored my own. When we entered the study, Lucius was already there waiting. For the first time, he had sent Narcissa away. Sit. He gestured at the sofa before him. His expression was unreadable, as deep and impenetrable as still water. We sat straight, backed, eyes cast down, hardly daring to breathe. Well done. Huh? I mean both of you, Lucius said, eyes gleaming with pride. You've managed to become comrades, and arms with Harry. Father, you don't blame us for being arrogant, reckless, for acting on our own? From the moment we chose to take Harry in, we were already prepared to sever ties with Voldemort. My own father chose the wrong side. By my time, it was already too late to undo his mistake. But in you, I see hope. The records of Lucius's public trial were still kept at the Ministry of Magic. He had claimed he acted under the Imperious Curse. But the dark mark on his arm had always been undeniable proof. In the past, no matter how hot the weather, he always wore long sleeves, never once showing his forearm. But now, with his cuff rolled back, the skin was smooth and unmarked. Father. Seeing my joy, Lucius inclined his head. When my bloodline awakened, I stripped the dark mark from myself. From this day forward, no one will ever hold the Malfoys in chains again. That's wonderful. In the original story, Lucius had seen clearly enough Voldemort, after his return, was no longer a fit leader, but the dark mark bound him, and through him, the Malfoy family was forced to obey. He would rather rot in Azkaban than serve his fallen master again. This time, everything could change. I called you here for another reason. Lucius set a war notebook down before us. Since we have chosen to cut ties with Voldemort, this must never remain in our possession. But, grandfather, this was Abraxas's most treasured belonging. I made a copy. He never noticed. Lucius could not see the fragment of young Riddle's soul, nor know that it held Tom Riddle's only sliver of goodness. We must find a way to destroy it. Chapter 158. What is Draco planning? But if grandfather discovers this... Lucius stood with his back to us, his white shirt outlining his broad, unyielding shoulders. It was he who bore the weight of the family name, who sheltered the Malfoys amidst shifting storms and dangerous tides. We cannot afford to be wrong again. He turned, and his eyes held a tempest of emotions, too tangled to read. This must be kept from your mother. For Narcissa carried Voldemort's bloodline within her. Even Draco and I did. And when the time came, for the sake of the family's honor, we might have to be the ones sacrificed. Dad, can I keep this notebook? What do you plan to do with it? Lucius's narrow eyes narrowed slightly. Take it into Hogwarts. This too was Lucius's choice in the original story. He had deliberately lowered his profile, picking a quarrel with Arthur Weasley in Riven's bookstore. After the fight, he tossed the notebook into Weasley's cauldron. He was willing to shoulder the risk himself rather than expose Draco to it too early. Truly, he was an exceptional father. Aurora, that's too risky, Draco protested. Make sure your hands are clean, and don't leave any evidence. Lucius seemed quite satisfied with the advice. Draco, this should have been your responsibility. Do you remember what you promised me? To protect Aurora properly. Draco's pale face flushed red. I haven't done it well enough. Supporting each other like this is good too, Lucius said, a faint smile in his eyes. It's me who can't overcome my own limitations. Dad, you love Mom too much, that's why you want to keep her under your wing, I teased, winking at him. Understood. Today's events Sissy must not know, he reminded me again. Yes, Dad. He looked eager to wrap up the conversation. I cradled the notebook and returned to our room. No sooner had I closed the door than Draco pinned me to the bed. What are you doing? Ah, jealous. He'd overheard my praise of Lucius. Dad already said us like this is fine. I thought you admired the way he expresses his love for Mom more. Draco's eyes were uncertain. That's not it. I stroked his face. I'm not Mom. I can't answer for her. I'm just me. I like how we interact, facing things together, shouldering problems together. That's good. He removed his ring and his platinum hair grew rapidly, cascading over me like a waterfall. His features bore the same contours as his human form. I was completely captivated by the beauty of the elf. "You pervert," he said, blushing, looking away. "Draco, who taught you that?" "Dad," he said. "Malfoy women are all drawn to appearances." I remembered Narcissa had done the same, staring unblinkingly at Lucius after his blood awakening, so it really is hereditary. Suddenly, he spread his massive wings, enveloping me completely. Their opacity blocked out all light. I felt as if I were in a pitch-black, otherworldly space. "Draco, what are you doing?" He gave no reply. A shiver of fear ran through me. Elves stay with their destined partners like this. Am I Draco's destined partner? I'm not even an elf. Aurora, the only person in this world who shares my heart is you. Our twin wands can prove it. Don't doubt me or I'll be hurt. The boy's voice trembled with grievance. Chapter 160. A lifelong regret. In the darkness, I couldn't see his face. I hurried closer, trying to soothe his wounded heart. "Aurora," he whispered my name. "Don't," I cautioned softly. "I'll be careful." He brushed my long hair aside, exposing the curve of my neck. "Sometimes I wonder if it's the blood of the vampire that awakened in you." Perhaps. But in truth, we hadn't done anything at all. "Master Malfoy, Miss Malfoy, dinner is ready." The voice of a house elf came from outside the door. Ever since Dobby had been replaced, no elf dared enter our rooms without permission. Draco had revoked their access. He gave a quiet sigh. "What's wrong?" Still not satisfied. Slowly, he folded away his enormous wings, and at last I could see daylight again. He placed the ring that concealed his fey form into my hand. "Put it on me." Blushing furiously, I slipped it onto his finger, watching as he gradually returned to his human form. It felt almost like exchanging rings in a wedding rite. His eyes never left mine, drinking in every flicker of emotion on my face. Under that intense gaze my skin prickled. I shoved at him lightly. "What are you staring at?" "Now that I've turned back, are you disappointed?" he asked, scrutinizing me with care. My hair stood on end. "What nonsense. Whether you're fey or human, to me you're the same." Draco, in human form, resembled Lucius more, already a breathtakingly handsome youth, but as a fey, his beauty surpassed the limits of human imagination. "Little liar," he teased with a tender smile. "When I'm human, I've never once seen you take the initiative like that." Guilt washed over me and I scrambled to change the subject. "Where are father and mother?" Draco, unbothered, replied as if used to it. "They'll likely have dinner sent up to our rooms." "We didn't wait for you, we already started." Sirius lifted his utensils with a grin. "Cousin, now that your name is cleared, what are your plans?" "For now, that's a secret." Sirius gave a sly, mysterious smile. "So stingy, not even a hint?" He just chuckled, then suddenly shifted the subject. "Who wants to come with me to Black Manor tomorrow?" "I do," we chorused in unison. Closed off for years, the ancestral home of the Blacks rivaled even Malfoy Manor. Its vaults held not just wealth, but relics steeped in centuries of history, goblin-made artifacts, lost recipes, forgotten manuscripts, treasures without end. "Aurora, your eyes are practically sparkling," Harry laughed, pointing it out. "I'm just so curious. With Sirius as the rightful heir, what we would see there would surely be extraordinary." At that moment, Lucius and Narcissa finally swept in, fashionably late. "What's all this excitement about?" Lucius asked. "Oh, tomorrow I'm planning to take them for a look around Black Manor," Sirius said casually. He hadn't even warned Lucius in advance. The Malfoy patriarch's brow furrowed slightly. "Then you had better keep a close watch on the three of them." He turned to us with a pointed reminder. "And mind yourselves, don't go fiddling with things that don't belong to you." "Why not have Sissy join us?" Sirius asked eagerly. "Think of it as returning to your childhood home, a trip down memory lane." Lucius forced a smile, his voice laced with irony. "Since Sissy wishes to visit her family, how could I, as the dutiful son-in-law, not accompany her?" Narcissa nearly lost her composure. She turned away quickly, shoulders trembling as she struggled to suppress her laughter. "Of course, you're welcome," Sirius replied cheerfully. "With you there, you might even draw some of the old hag's attention away." By old hag, he meant his mother Walburga Black. "Sirius, watch your tongue." Narcissa's tone sharpened. "Luke has already gone over the will. It was Lady Black herself, against all opposition, who insisted the manor be left to you as your last refuge. She placed her slender hand upon Sirius's shoulder. And yet, you were so consumed by penance you didn't even attend her funeral. Until her dying breath, she was pulling every string she could to see you one last time. Disbelief flooded Sirius's eyes. No one told me. Luke dug into it. The ministry sealed every message. They didn't want Lady Black's estate formally acknowledged because then they could seize the manor without question. Narcissa flicked a quick glance at Harry. Was there anything left unclear? The same scheme was used for the Potter estate as well, snatching up family wealth once no heirs remain. Treasures were nationalized, only to be swallowed by ministry officials in broad daylight. Nocturne Alley's largest shop, Borgin and Burke's, was one of their most lucrative laundries. Sirius muttered, "How do you know all this?" "Because I was the one who walked with Walburga at the very end." As the youngest daughter of the Black family, Walburga was Narcissa's aunt in name. "Mother used to take Aurora and me to visit Lady Black too," Draco added quietly. When she passed, no one was there, not a single soul. Only the Black family's elf, Creature, stayed by her side. "I owed her a debt as family, and so did Sissy. We repaid it. But Sirius, she was your mother, the woman who bore and raised you. At the very least, you had the chance to be there with her." Lucius's own mother had died giving birth to him. The same fate had befallen Narcissa's mother. As a magical creation, she had been carried straight to Malfoy Manor after birth, raised alongside Lucius. "Luke." The rare note of vulnerability in his voice cut deep into Narcissa's heart. She quickly lifted her hand from Sirius's shoulder and instead wrapped her arms around her tall, imposing husband. I didn't miss the fleeting smirk of triumph that crossed Lucius's face. "Father really does have you wrapped around his finger." Draco's hand tightened around mine beneath the table. On the other side, Harry gazed at Narcissa and Lucius with something like reverence. After all, he wasn't the only one who had grown up without a mother. Sirius set down his napkin, appetite gone, clearly preparing to make a hasty exit. In the original story, he had even stabled Buck Beak in his mother's bedchamber, of all places, an outrageously disrespectful act. The manor had no shortage of rooms, but he had chosen that one deliberately. Walburga had been 35 when she bore Sirius. Her eldest son, brilliant in every way and lavished with affection, grew up restless and defiant, determined to rebel against his family in everything. Narcissa's voice softened with regret. "Sirius, do you know? All those years when I sent you money, Walburga always found ways to send it back to me quietly. She forbade me to tell you, but she cared for you more than you ever believed." Chapter 161. The Beloved Malfoy Women. After hearing all that, Sirius bolted in such a panic he nearly tripped over the leg of the table. I had never seen him so undone before. His striking gray eyes were wide with disbelief, clouded with confusion. "Sissy, don't you dare tell him that Walburga once planned to make you her daughter-in-law," Lucius warned sharply. "Mum, you almost married my cousin?" Draco blurted out, only to be silenced by his father's glare. "But the age gap's a little much, isn't it?" After their bloodlines awakened, Lucius and Narcissa looked barely 20, yet they were still 5 years older than Sirius. Back when Narcissa was already a graceful young lady, Sirius had been nothing more than a scrappy little boy. What of it? Luke's earliest betrothal was to Sirius's cousin, Bellatrix, and she's more than 5 years his senior. Narcissa's lips curved as though she were savoring gossip. "I refused the Black family head outright. I was cold to Bellatrix as well, even nudged her toward that Lestrange marriage. Unlike someone who kept funneling support to her little fiancé," Lucius accused, eyes narrowing on his wife. "I did not. Walburga came to me privately several times, father agreed, and only then did I comply." "Sissy, how are you planning to make this up to me?" Lucius's voice dropped low as his arms slipped around her slender waist. "Not here, don't you dare!" Narcissa caught his wandering hand, suddenly shy as a schoolgirl. "Then, promise me, tonight. Anything you want. Just enough, Luke." And there it was again, father's victory. At this rate, when we set out for Black Manor tomorrow, mother might not even be well enough to travel. He was far too cunning. Draco stood nearby, wearing the look of a dutiful student, and my heart sank. Surely Lucius wasn't passing these tricks on to the next Malfoy heir? If so, the one who ought to be worried here was me. "Your cousin and her husband are really in love," Harry said with genuine admiration. It's your fault, making the children laugh at us, Narcissa chided softly, patting Lucius's chest. Then let's turn in early. You've had a long day. You must be tired, Lucius murmured gently. Watching them walk away, I couldn't resist calling after them. Father, make sure Mother really does rest. From a distance came Narcissa's soft complaints and Lucius's gentle coaxing. I propped my chin in my hands, grinning from ear to ear. Ha, the everyday life of the platinum couple. The next morning, Sirius appeared at the breakfast table on time. His usually bright eyes looked slightly weary, and even his mood seemed subdued. Thought Father didn't sleep well last night? Harry asked with concern. Sirius ruffled Harry's hair and pulled the corners of his mouth into a faint smile. Too much information yesterday. I need some time to process it all. Sissy isn't feeling well today. I'll accompany you both, Lucius instructed the house elves to deliver breakfast to the master bedroom. I exchanged a knowing glance with Draco. As expected, Father always tormented Mother to get his way. Sirius couldn't quite hide his disappointment. Much later, I learned that the Black family had a tradition of marrying older sisters. Walburga, born in 1925, had a husband, Orion, born in 1929, her cousin 4 years her junior. Here! Sirius caught the object without missing a beat. It was an alchemical charm. Sissy wants you to wear it. You don't have a wand. Sirius fiddled with the pendant, and his mood shifted from worry to joy. Like a Gryffindor, his expression changed as quickly as flipping a book. All right, stop letting my woman worry for you. Learn to be independent. Lucius almost said it outright. My woman, such classic Malfoy possessiveness. Fine, brother-in-law, Sirius retorted without backing down. Aurora, your cousin's popularity rivals your own, Harry remarked. Me? Popular? How come I didn't know? Seeing my puzzled expression, Lucius added, seems even dullness runs in the family. Sissy has no idea how charming she is. Being a little dull isn't bad, Draco proudly declared, eyes gleaming with pride. Honestly, what nonsense are they playing at? I only knew Harry had a little ambiguous affection for me. The others seemed to keep a gentlemanly distance. Before I could let my mind wander, Narcissa slowly entered the dining room. She bit her lower lip, each step seeming slightly labored. Sissy, didn't I tell you to rest at home today? Lucius stepped forward to greet her. She cut herself off, biting back the rest of the words. Her cheeks flushed crimson as her gaze flickered, clinging to Lucius's arm. It was as though she were enduring something with all her might, refusing no matter what to return to her seat. Inside, she whispered, the sound carrying the faintest hint of a sigh. Forgive me, my dear, I'd forgotten. Lucius's apology was full of earnestness. Shall I take you back? No need. Stay with Sirius. Seeing how all our eyes were fixed on her, she grew even more embarrassed, her face burning. But only a few steps later, she stumbled again. So careless, Lucius's reflexes were faster than lightning. He caught her in an instant. The speed rivaled apparition itself. He must have been teasing Mother again. Effortlessly, Lucius swept his wife into his arms. Be good. If I'm not by your side, let this keep you company. You've done this on purpose, making me unable to walk properly. Sissy, how can you say that? Who was it that agreed to me yesterday? Anything you want. Sirius's animagus form was a dog. His hearing and sense of smell were second to none. A tousle of hair hid his tightly shut eyes, as though he were fighting to contain himself. By the time Lucius returned, Sirius had already smoothed out his emotions. Let's go. Cough, cough. The flu was the most decrepit I had ever experienced. With a sweep of his wand, Lucius cast a scourgify. Good thing Sissy didn't come. She loves cleanliness too much. Creature, Sirius, visibly uncomfortable, bellowed for the Black family's house elf. A frail, elderly elf shuffled out, eyes bloodshot, nose round and bulbous. He bowed low. Master Sirius, Master Malfoy, young Master Malfoy, young Mistress Malfoy, and a filthy half-blood. Shut your mouth, creature. I forbid you to insult Harry, Sirius roared, fury breaking through. The suffocating gloom of Black Manor seemed to gnaw at his nerves. Yes, Master Sirius. The mistress's wayward son has returned, and still creature must obey his commands. Such misfortune, the old elf muttered ceaselessly under his breath. Creature, is this the Black family's way of welcoming guests? As Walburga's son in? I find it shameful. Lucius arched a brow. Cobweb chandeliers, curtains thick with dust, not a trace left of the Black family's former grandeur or pride. "Master Malfoy, did Mistress Malfoy not come with you?" The lady misses her dearly, always murmuring, "Sissy, Sissy." Creature's voice held almost desperate hope. "Sissy is unwell. She sent me in her stead, but if she saw the house like this, she would be bitterly disappointed." Shame washed over Creature. His head drooped so low it nearly scraped the floor. With a sharp snap of his fingers, Black Manor transformed before our eyes. Chapter 163. The Two-Faced Blacks. The cobwebs and layers of dust had vanished, the sheets draped over the furniture removed one by one. The crystal chandelier shimmered, scattering prismatic light. A gramophone filled the air with classical music. "This is more like it," Lucius nodded approvingly. It was clearly a provocation. Creature would never allow his beloved mistress to lose face before the head of the Malfoy family. Our arrival had already roused Walburga Black from her slumber. Yet, she did not erupt into the shrill tirades I had expected. Perhaps it was because she recognized who had come. The Malfoys who had seen her to her end, and their children as well were, in their own way, benefactors of the Black family. Not to mention, they were the ones who had rescued her only surviving son from Azkaban and cleared his name. In her portrait, she wore a black hat draped with a veil that obscured part of her face. Still, the proud line of her nose and the sharp curve of her jaw revealed the traces of her former beauty. Sirius's striking looks, it seemed, had their origin. Walburga held her head high, greeting Lucius with formal courtesy. Narcissa's absence startled her briefly, but once Lucius explained that she was unwell, she nodded in understanding. "Mother," Sirius murmured. Walburga's tears welled and spilled, though she bit her lip fiercely, refusing to let the sound of her sobbing escape. "Ungrateful child, what have you come back for?" Every Black was the same, prideful to the point of cruelty. Their pride was a blade, cutting themselves as much as it cut those they loved most. "There were so many things, and you kept me in the dark." The sharper the blame, the deeper the love. Walburga's bitter disappointment in Sirius sprang entirely from the weight of her impossible expectations. Lucius caught our eyes and gave a subtle signal, leading us quietly out of the room. Mother and son had knots between them that only they could untangle. The final image was Sirius, brought to his knees in grief. In the portrait, his mother could only watch helplessly as the son, who once fled from her, stood broken before her. He no longer had arms to help him up. She no longer had a warm embrace to welcome him home. The living and the dead were forever separated. Everything was far, far too late. Beside him, Creature wept so hard he nearly fainted. Over and over he tried to rush in, only to be held back by Lucius. "Creature, don't spoil this last moment of tenderness." "Sirius, my portrait has been bound here with a permanent sticking charm. I've been waiting for you to come home all this time. And now, its purpose has been fulfilled." The moment Walburga finished speaking, her portrait slipped from the wall. One corner of the frame shattered against the floor. "No!" Sirius snatched it up, desperate to hang it back where it belonged. The painting was enormous, far too heavy for him alone. "Sirius, don't waste your strength. At last, you're free of me." "Shut up, old mother, don't make me hate you." "Lucius, get over here and help," Sirius barked. When would the Blacks ever learn to stop saying the opposite of what they meant? Together, we lifted the frame with care, while Creature worked painstakingly at the repairs. He was quick to notice how differently his mistress now spoke of her so-called wayward son. Because of it, even his own words toward Sirius were gentler than usual. Harry stood quietly to one side, almost afraid to disturb the formidable Lady Black, who had worshipped blood purity all her life. "You are from the Potter family?" Harry's resemblance to James was uncanny, like he'd been carved from the same mold. "Yes, ma'am. I'm Harry Potter." Walburga seemed to recall something then, her expression softening into something both wistful and pained. "During their school years, your father often looked after my wayward son." The word wayward lingered on her tongue, steeped in sorrow and regret. Her wayward son, and the Potters' only child, 2 boys who became the sole survivors of their families in this calamity. And her younger son had become the family's sacrifice, lost without a trace. How I longed to tell her the truth that her youngest, Regulus Black, had been nothing short of extraordinary. With her meager strength, she toyed with Voldemort in the palm of her hand, even if it cost her life. The blacks were proud to the core. Misunderstood by the world, they never bothered to defend themselves. Even if nailed to the pillar of shame, as long as their conscience was clear, as long as they held fast to their sense of purity, they would press forward unwaveringly toward the ideals in their hearts. Together, a few of them finally managed to rehang Mrs. Black's portrait on the wall. "Mother, this house still needs you, to watch over me, see me build a family, won't you? You ungrateful child, I'm already old as dirt, and now I have to watch you flounder." Walburga's words were harsh, but the smile in her eyes was impossible to hide. "All of Lucius's children are studying at Hogwarts now." Lucius had grown up under Walburga's watchful eye. The elder Mrs. Black had always mentioned him, putting pressure on both Sirius and Regulus. Hearing Walburga's words, Sirius opened his mouth to scoff, then thought of the newly mended mother-son relationship and quickly swallowed it back. "That's just Lucius's luck," he muttered. Walburga's expression was full of exasperation at his stubbornness. In front of Narcissa's husband Lucius, she naturally couldn't reveal all of her old schemes. Narcissa seemed to be the daughter-in-law Walburga respected most. The girl was beautiful, pure-blooded, and graceful in every gesture. Although Abraxas officially declared her an adopted daughter, the Malfoy family's signature platinum hair and gray eyes spoke volumes. She was a true Malfoy. Walburga had quietly worked behind the scenes, subtly facilitating arrangements. During Sirius's rebellious years, every poster of Muggle girls he put up in his room featured blonde women with perfect curves. A mother knows her child. What could Walburga not understand? Unfortunately, her eldest son had woken up too late, missing his chance. By the time he realized, Narcissa Malfoy had become the new Mrs. Malfoy. There was no turning back. Now, with the Black family owing the Malfoys such a debt of gratitude, how could they even think of undermining their benefactors? Lucius seemed fully aware of Walburga's old intentions, and he made no move to stop her. He left the choice entirely in her hands. He knew his wife, slow as she might be, had been devoted to him from the moment she was born. When her bloodline awakened, he was even more certain their fates had been intertwined for millions of years. Their lives across generations would always be connected, and both were happy with it. Walburga's gaze landed on me. I noticed her eyes brighten. "Miss Malfoy, I remember Sissy brought you here before? You and Sissy as children seemed to." "Yes, Aurora inherited Sissy's looks," Lucius said, lightly stroking the top of my head and patting my shoulder. "Sirius, the children are restless. Take them for a tour. I hear your house contains quite a few dangerous magical items. Make sure they don't touch anything." Having grown up in Malfoy Manor, we naturally knew that any family with a 1,000-year history would have its share of strange, fascinating artifacts. Our attention was immediately captured. "Uncle, take us now." Draco grabbed my hand, and we followed Sirius in a rush. "Harry, keep up," I called back. "I'm coming." Lucius watched our departing figures with a smile. "My Aurora deserves the very best." Walburga's expression hardened, her spine straightening. "The Black family unworthy of her, is that what you mean? Who can say what more than 10 years in Azkaban may have done to his ability to produce heirs? You. If Aurora truly wishes it, I'll see that Sirius undergoes an examination." Walburga was struck dumb with fury. Yet deep down, she knew Lucius's concern was justified. The inhuman torment of Azkaban could very well have scarred her son, body and soul alike. "Enough. As you can see, Aurora has inherited Sissy's beauty. Nearly every pure blood heir has already sent their parents to approach the Malfoy family with offers of alliance." His tone shifted. "But I am not a patriarch who thinks only of the family's advantage. What matters most is Aurora's happiness. To protect that happiness, I, the Malfoy family, am willing to give everything." Inside the portrait, Walburga suddenly crumpled to the floor. She buried her face in her hands, sobbing soundlessly. In that instant, she realized how gravely she had erred. She had driven away those closest to her. She had loved in the wrong way. But the realization came far too late. Lucius inclined his head politely, then turned to leave. Madame Creature crept forward, trembling, trying in vain to brush away his mistress's tears. It was useless. From this day forward, Sirius's words will carry the weight of my own. Walburga's voice rang out once more with the commanding force of the Black matriarch. It was as if that fleeting moment of weakness had never occurred. "Yes," Creature bowed low, nodding fervently. Her eyes swept the lavish room, and she exhaled. "Now this is more fitting. No slacking, creature, if I discover it, I will not allow you to keep your head mounted on the stairwell wall. That stretch of wall was lined with the severed heads of house elves who had served the blacks all their lives. Never, mistress. Creature will obey Master Sirius's every command. Good. I've not rested in an age. Do not wake me without cause. With that, she closed her eyes in satisfaction. Once, she had been a dazzling pure blood maiden, dreaming of love's arrival. But in the end, the family creed conquered all. She chose to uphold tradition and wed her cousin. In the quiet hours of the night, she sometimes wondered, was there another path she might have walked? Father, Uncle's got piles of treasures he's planning to toss out. Can we bring them back to Malfoy Manor? Lucius appeared just then, and I waved a letter I'd found. A photograph slipped from it, falling to the floor. It had been torn cleanly in half. We knew that photograph all too well. It was Lucius and Narcissa's wedding portrait. Lucius bent to retrieve it. In the picture, Narcissa's smile shone like sunlight as Lucius slipped a pair of earrings from her ears. She was breathtaking, no other word would suffice. If anyone remarked on how different she looked from the Narcissa of today, the explanation was simple. A bride is at her most beautiful in her wedding gown. Even so, the possessive Malfoy patriarch had forbidden the image to circulate. He had no desire to flaunt her beauty, only to keep it safe, hidden, his alone. Without a word, Lucius slipped the photo into his pocket. Quick as a flash, I swept the rest of the items into my pack. Regulus Black's box was among the treasures as well. This time, Sirius had yet to turn Grimmauld Place into the headquarters of the Order of the Phoenix. Mundungus Fletcher, the man who spent his days mingling with thieves and swindlers, had not set foot inside. The Black family heirlooms were all still preserved, untouched and intact. Walburga had originally hoped we would stay the night, and Lucius, of course, would have been delighted. But just as he was about to agree, a silver snow leopard appeared before us, carrying Narcissa's voice. She pleaded with him to bring us home early. The Malfoy patriarch had no choice but to let go of the idea. "Godfather, will you come back with us?" Harry asked hopefully. "Aye." Sirius glanced toward Walburga's portrait. The woman had turned her face away, lifting her proud chin as if she could not care less about her son's answer. "Uncle, it's been so long since you were last home. You should stay and spend some time with Lady Black. Look at us, we've only been gone a single day and already Mother missed us terribly." I blinked at Lucius, who caught on instantly. Hoisting me onto his back, he clasped Harry's and Draco's hands, and before Sirius could speak, stepped straight into the fireplace. "Aurora, you're a true Malfoy," Lucius praised. "Of course." With one great nuisance sent off, Lucius was more than pleased, so much so that he poured himself another glass of wine. "Sissy, help me back to the bedroom." He staggered as if already drunk. Far too fake. Lucius had always been able to drink anyone under the table. "Luke, stop pretending." But Narcissa had been fooled too many times before. She had grown wary. "You know what it was like. Sissy, Walburga and Sirius are like fire and oil. Do you have any idea how hard that scene was to handle?" He pressed a hand to his brow, platinum hair falling across half his face. "Oh, Luke, you worked so hard." Narcissa reached out, her slender fingers gently massaging his scalp. But there was a haze of intoxication in his eyes, whether real or feigned, as he caught her wrists to still her hands. Narcissa tried to wriggle free, but his grip held fast. "Draco, give me a hand. Your father really is drunk this time." "All right." "Father, you're heavy." Draco groaned under the weight as Lucius leaned almost fully against him. With both Narcissa and Draco propping him up, he returned to the master bedroom. Draco later confided that, in the instant the door closed behind them, there wasn't the faintest trace of drunkenness left in the Malfoy patriarch's eyes. He had been sharp, perfectly sober, and had signaled Draco to leave quickly. All 800 of Father's schemes, and every single one of them, is spent on Mother. Draco collapsed into a chair, still shaken. "Come on, let's go back to our room too." "Aurora, you're not going to start copying Father, are you?" "What are you thinking? We have serious business." "Oh, so what you're saying is, when Father and Mother go back to their room, it's all terribly unserious," Draco teased. "Don't start." Narcissa had been able to marry out as the youngest daughter of the Black family only because Voldemort pressured Orion, the head of the family at the time. Yet the honeymoon between Voldemort and the Malfoys was painfully brief. Once Voldemort split his soul, stripping away what goodness remained, all that was left was rage, greed, madness, and paranoia. A man without reason could no longer be a worthy leader. I sometimes wonder, was Abraxas's death from dragonpox in 1996, as told in the original story, really Voldemort's doing? That night, though Draco held me close, I never truly felt at ease in sleep. A hazy figure sat beside my bed. I felt fingers toying with my hair, fingers far too practiced. I'd been living far too comfortably, because instead of panic, I almost drifted back into drowsiness. "You're..." I rubbed my eyes, trying to sit up, but Draco's arm around my waist kept me pinned. "You're Tom." The words nearly escaped me in a scream. It had been so long since I last saw him, back when I was still swaddled in blankets. He had those wine red eyes, that hair like polished obsidian. 16-year-old Voldemort, balanced on the edge between boy and man, his features chiseled as though by Merlin's own hand. There was even a fractured quality to him that made him dangerously alluring. A touch of masculine sharpness was beginning to shape his face, but he was still beautiful in a way that defied gender. Narcissa's true face resembled his at this stage the most. No wonder Lucius went to such lengths to keep it hidden. The boy's eyes sparkled with laughter. "Aurora, you've grown so much. When you were little, I even held you. Do you remember?" I knew perfectly well that Voldemort's greatest talent was seduction, yet faced with such a familiar face, I couldn't help but feel a flicker of warmth. What was wrong with me? Was I really such a fool whose values followed her eyes? Maybe only someone with a heart of stone, like Dumbledore, could stare into those beautiful, unwavering eyes and feel nothing. "So, you can come out again?" I asked. His expression dimmed. "Yes, this may be the last time I ever touch this world." Logic screamed he was putting on an act, yet my heart still clenched. Then he smiled, a sly, unsettling curve of the lips. "So Abraxas's descendants have grown this gullible?" "What do you mean?" "Just a few words and you're willing to spare me a stranger who might harm the Malfoy family?" He leaned suddenly closer. My breath caught. I dared not move, terrified of waking Draco beside me. "Lucius's cunning and ruthlessness, clearly none of it passed down to you." His gaze lingered on me, mocking smile tugging at his mouth. "He was doing it on purpose, just to rile me up." "You're not afraid I'll destroy that diary?" I shut back. "I'd love to see what you'd try." His smirk widened, calm and confident, as if I'd lay my plans bare for him. Instead, I pulled the covers over my head and ignored him. "Aurora." He called me twice. Then, when my breathing evened out, he seemed to assume I'd fallen asleep again. I heard him mutter under his breath, "Still dropping off the moment your head hits the pillow, simple-minded, just like Abraxas." "Damn it, I'm not simple-minded. Abraxas doesn't even know I'm leaving. I should go see him. After this, he'll be alone. Without me, I wonder, will he even be able to sleep?" The boy had already prepared himself to die? That wasn't at all what I expected. He could have done exactly what he did in the original story: seduce Ginny Weasley, drained my life force, freed himself from the diary's confines, and chased immortality. If he had truly done that, Abraxas couldn't possibly look so youthful and handsome at his age. A wizard's appearance is closely tied to the strength of his magic. The stronger the magic, the more it preserves youth. Enough, I'm too tired to think about this anymore. Draco's chest was pressed against my back. His steady breath warmed the skin at my neck. The air conditioner hummed through the night, so it wasn't actually hot. Because I lay with my back turned, I didn't notice his thick platinum lashes trembling just a little. The next morning I overslept, of course. Draco's arm was still tucked around my waist. When I turned, his angelic face came into view. Draco looked more like Lucius than usual, Lucius who, in turn, bore a striking resemblance to a young Grindelwald. The Malfoys were sly, hoarding all the handsome genes the wizarding world had to offer. The sound of me shifting had woken him. "Aurora, so sleepy, stay and lie with me a while longer," he murmured. I answered drowsily. Once someone falls asleep, their body temperature rises. The spot pressed against me felt like a branding iron, scorching hot. I squeezed my eyes shut and didn't dare move, pretending ignorance. Damn it. Draco cursed softly and drew back. Aurora. He was startled when I spoke up, frowning. Do you want me to help? I offered. Aurora, what kind of joke is that? He snapped, shoving me away as he dashed for the bathroom. He's so stingy, I scolded. Suddenly he spun back around, pinned me down on the bed, and started lifting my nightdress. You, what are you doing? I squawked. He had my wrists gripped in one hand. My skirt was pulled up, revealing a flat belly and cotton underwear. Terrified, I clamped my legs tightly together. His knee forced them wide apart. I tried to scream, but he covered my mouth, only muffled little sounds escaped. My hair was a mess, my vision blurred. Scared now, are you? He stopped abruptly, and to my surprise, wiped away the tears at the corner of my eye with care. Men and women are different, strength isn't equal. Men don't stand up well to temptation. Right now I can stop. I can't promise I'll be able to next time. Don't be afraid. He smoothed my hair back, let the hem of my dress fall and cradled me gently in his arms. I swore I would never force you. Gradually I came back to myself. The sleepiness vanished. You jerk! I grabbed a cushion and thumped him with all my might. You nearly gave me a heart attack. I thought you were going to eat me. Eat you? Do you have no faith in me at all, Aurora? He asked, sounding hurt. But you were terrifying just now, I stammered. I promised Father I wouldn't before marriage, he reminded me. He noticed the bruise on my wrist. I'm sorry. I'll go fetch some ointment. For a moment, a foolish little corner of my heart hoped he'd meant it, really meant it.